They're going to be saying, look, he ran as not a Democrat or by distancing himself from the Democrats. Therefore, he might be fine. And it's very helpful, perhaps, for the individual candidate's brand.
At this point, the average American citizen has proven that they are beyond fucking retarded when it comes to associating policy with anybody. So as long as the Democrats get in office and do good things, nobody's going to remember 2 years ago that some person said this thing about this thing. Everybody jerks off about it. Was like the Kamala's for they, them, and Donald Trump is for fucking loser, fat fuck American trailer park trash, okay? How the fuck is this even a message when Kamala didn't spend any of her fucking time talking about trans people in her entire fucking campaign? This was a statement she made in like 2019. Is that Kamala's fault for messaging? Was it an exposed Democrats' fault? No, it's because the Republican media apparatus has defined what the Democratic Party is. We're looking to politicians.
I think it is Kamala's fault for being perceived as hyper-progressive when in 2019 she was making public advocations for how we could figure out to legislate reparations.
In 2019, in 2024, Donald Trump called himself the president of no new wars, and in 2025, we just lost the worst war in U.S. history. Well, I mean, it's a media problem.
How do we deal with competitive races? What rhetoric is okay? What rhetoric should be off limits? What should the strategy be? And we're here to talk about it, and I'm happy to talk about it. I want to give the mic first to Mr. Hutch, and he can kind of explain what he means a little bit, maybe clarify, tell people who he is, all these things, and we'll just kind of go around the room. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I should clarify, and I don't know if this fucks up the prompt for the debate, but I think you could say I was being a little hyperbolic. I don't know about fully throw Biden and the party under the bus, but kinda, if it helps. My logic is pretty straightforward. The Democratic Party brand right now is just really bad. I loved Biden's presidency. I thought he was a very strong president, but the approval rating for the party, I think, is the lowest in recorded history. Doesn't really seem to be turning around despite a lot of wins over the last year and a half. And for races like Maine, where you're flipping this red seat, where there's a lot of independent voters, and especially Texas with Tallarico in the Senate race, there is value to him, putting some distance between himself and the party, which is kind of toxic right now. And I don't like generally when left-wing politicians talk shit about the party or Biden, but I think it's necessary in some of these races, and I'll just leave it there.
Okay, we're going to talk about it. It doesn't fuck up the prompt, at least for me. I still disagree. Bishop may or may not, but we'll talk about it. Bishop, I want to give the mic to you. What are your thoughts here?
Everybody, so as far as this topic goes, there's clearly a big problem right now with the branding with the Democratic Party, and there's very low polling on people's opinion on the party. But I don't think what we need in American politics and Democratic politics right now is more shitting on the Democrats. I don't think that that's an element of politics that is underrepresented right now. I do understand and champion the fact that in specific races, there needs to be criticism of unpopular policies. A really good example is Tallarico and him moving forward with a break in a lot of Democratic candidates on the trans issue involving minors. And so I think that on one hand, it's important to remember injustice is real, corruption is constant, so we do need change. It demands that we criticize bad policies. But I really bristle at the concept of throwing something under the bus, because the implication there is that, well, I'm just going to accuse the Democratic Party of being DC elites and the Epstein class, and me, even though I'm running on the D ticket, I am not a part of that Epstein class, and that's why you can go with me. I don't think that we should be endorsing this demolition of our values and of our movement. We should be repairing it.
Thank you. Destiny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know how much disagreement there's going to be between everybody here, but I mean, I think it's just one of kind of strategy. The bluer the district you are, the safer you are, it should be the more you're building the party. Like, those people can afford to attach themselves to the Democratic brand and then hopefully build it stronger. They can take a little bit of a hit if there is some hit to take there because you're trying to boost the popularity of an unpopular thing. But I mean, if you're in a purple district, sometimes you have to create space between you and at least the perception of unpopular Democratic policies. And if we're ever going to have the majorities that we need in the Congress to bulldoze Twitter HQ or to take back every piece of property that Elon Musk has seized to the United States, then we got to do everything we can to get our majorities in Congress first.
Do we think that this creates kind of like this self-perpetuating problem that we have, that the more we criticize the Democrats in order to win specific seats and specific races, the more that becomes the thing to do? And then we ask ourselves, why is the Democratic Party's popularity so low? Well, it's because in every competitive race, we seem to be throwing them under the bus. And so I understand like this desire to do what you got to do to win sometimes. And maybe, and to be clear, I think it's okay to criticize Biden, the Democrats, the DNC when they do something that is incorrect. But I think it's just a problem. And I think one of the reasons we're having this problem is because of this kind of strategy that Hutch is suggesting of just, well, you got to do it to win. So we're going to keep doing it. But it, again, just kicks the can down the road. What would your response be to that, Hutch? I'm really curious.
I don't want to make any assumptions, but do you think that your response to this proposition is colored by your disdain for like the lefty candidates that just fully toss the party under the bus all the time?
Yes.
Okay, so in my head, I'm, you know, I should have added more clarification. I kind of hinted at it in the tweet, but Destiny mentioned it. I mean, if you're talking about a candidate like, you know, Chris Rabb in Philadelphia or something like that, you know, that's like one of the bluer districts in the entire country. And so that is just a completely cynical, self-serving rhetoric that I find to be destructive to the party, and I don't co-sign that kind of a thing. Like, Tallarico really is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. He's running just a decidedly like less partisan campaign than any other Democrat that I've seen, basically. And, you know, for a state like Texas, don't you think there's value there in just acknowledging how unpopular Biden was and how unpopular the party is currently, especially in a state like Texas? I mean, that's a pretty tall order to run as a partisan Democrat in that state.
I understand it's a tall order, but we're never going to build the Democratic brand if we keep retreating from it.
Well, real quick,
the reason. Oh, go ahead.
So I agree to marry these 2 points a little bit, and I would hope we would find agreement here between me and Hutch. The throwing the party under the bus thing, this is exclusively within the realm of people running for office. I don't think members of the media should be doing this. So if you're on CNN or if you're on MSNBC or if you're a streamer or whatever, I don't think you should retreat from the brand there and constantly trash Democrats for whatever reason. I just think there might be times when, if you're running in like a very purple state and there's some unpopular thing related to Biden, creating distance there is probably an okay thing. But different roles for different segments of society, I guess. Yeah.
Would you agree, disagree, Hutch? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. We're talking about, you know, to your point, you're asking like, how do we repair the damage, or how do we repair the brand?
Yes.
I don't know if that's going to happen until we get power and actually do things. And so in order to get power and do things, I think you have to make smart calculations when you're running.
But if the way you ran to get power is, I'm not the Democrats, and then you do something good, people aren't going to they aren't going to connect that in a way that we want. They're going to be saying, look, he ran as not a Democrat, or by distancing himself from the Democrats, therefore he might be fine, and it's very helpful perhaps for the individual candidate's brand.
These
right?
are this type of connection you're talking about. If you're training a dog, you can't spank it after it's peed on the carpet like 10 hours later, like when you come home. It can only associate things close in time. I think at this point, the average American citizen has proven that they are beyond fucking retarded when it comes to associating policy with anybody. So as long as the Democrats get in office and do good things, nobody's going to remember 2 years ago that some person said this thing about this thing. All that matters is like building the coalition, getting in power, and then doing good things. And then on the media side of things, we have to work at communicating that better. But on the lawmaker side of things, America is a policy-less country when it comes to why people vote for things. So I don't think that should be a concern at all, in my opinion.
one of the big problems that I have with this is this idea that there is some kind of a coalition. I think that one of the things that Whick is pointing out is that if these people make it a part of their brand that they're borderline independents, and that their success is that they're a borderline independent and they're not a part of the Epstein class and they're not a part of the DC elites, then they're going to continue to be beholden to that message through at least a sizable amount of their career, a sizable amount of their time in office. And we've seen that with independents. I mean, I do think that there's a big difference in let's say like close competitive campaigns, which competitive campaigns is the terminology that you used, Hutch. I do think that in competitive campaigns there is more room for distancing yourself from particularly damaging policies. But I also take a big issue with the idea that if we can just get into power, everything's going to be okay and everybody's going to love us. I feel like there's like this kind of idea here that it's like just one more election, guys. Just one more elections and we're going to fix one more election and we're going to fix everything. And the reality is there needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability for the aspects of the Democratic platform that have driven people away. There needs to be accountability for why we've lost certain types of voters. And I mean, on one hand, you're hearing that, you're like, oh, well, okay, accountability for these negative things. That sounds like more criticizing of the Democrats. But it's not necessarily a matter of criticizing the Democratic Party so much as it's criticizing specific ideas. And that's how the Democratic Party is going to grow. And the way I see it, that's how we're going to win elections.
Well, I don't think that it's as simple as just winning power. It's what they do with that power is really important. And I think they need to swing pretty big on reforms and some social democratic policies the next time they're given power. And to piggyback off of Destiny's point, I agree with him that I think that people's attention spans are pretty small, especially voters in this country. And, you know, like, I guess I would just pose the question to you guys, like, what do you think a candidate like Peltola or Sherrod Brown should say when they're asked, you know, when they're pressed about like Biden's border policy? When they say, like, obviously, you know, like this was a big problem, it's a big vulnerability for the administration and for Kamala's campaign, who inherited that baggage. You know, what do you think he did wrong and what would you do differently in terms of policy? Like, there's no way to answer that question without somewhat throwing Biden under the bus and acknowledging that he did drop the ball and kick the can down the road too long when it came to the border.
But there's a distinct difference between saying, you know what, I don't think Biden did this correctly, and I think I would do it in a better way, than the Democrats are just weak on the border and we should never trust them. But I am not the Democrats. I'm more of an independent, a maverick, if you will. And I will go in there and I will get what's done for the needs of my people. Like, it's about how you say it, how you approach these things. And I think that when you make statements like we should just throw the party under the bus or throw Biden under the bus, what you're doing, and this is kind of like, and you mentioned this earlier, like how much of this is colored by my disdain for some of these lefty arsonists, as I see them in the party, is that what you're doing is you have people, influencers, streamers, people like that, who take this and they run with it in a way that I think is destroying our brand, is destroying our party, and is saying like, hey, the only way we can win is if we distance ourselves from the Epstein class, the DNC, all these things. And this doesn't just happen in these competitive races. It has a much broader effect than what you're saying. Like, we have to realize that what happens in a specific race does not always, and in fact, rarely, stays within that specific race. These things have ripple effects outside that break containment, that go beyond the scope. And that's what I think that's happening. I think that there are too many people who are saying, you know what? Democrats just can't win by being Democrats. We have to be different. And I it's going to destroy our brand long term. It's a bad strategy.
So it's just, it comes down to recognizing who has what responsibility. It's not on the responsibility of individual candidates running in competitive districts to do brand building for the Democratic Party. Like, you know,
why not?
Because that's not their job. They can't do it. It's too much. It's just not fair for them. Where do you put your strongest seats, your majority speakers, your Pelosi's and your Schumers, right? These aren't people generally in a congressional seat in like Pennsylvania or Michigan, right? You put these people in like the bluest places possible because this is where the leadership of your party sits, because it's like a safe district, because you know that you can, fight and dictate the party stuff from there. But you don't have people that are, fighting for their lives in competitive areas, also trying to do brand rehab for the Democratic Party. That should be the job of safer Democratic seats, and then media people that are interested in establishing a strong brand for the Democratic Party. That's it. Yeah. It's just
It's not happening in the safe seats. In fact, the opposite is happening in the safe seats. In the safe seats, what we're seeing is some of the biggest damage to the Democratic brand that we've had in my adult lifetime.
Sure. Then the criticism needs to go to that. But the purple people, like if the tankies online, for however little, whatever influence they have, and then if the conservatives in real life are the ones who are dictating what the Democratic Party's brand is, which they are, right? Then why would you hitch your wagon to that in a purple area, in a competitive area, and then try to salvage that brand while simultaneously fighting for your own election? It's just not possible. That's an impossible fight.
Well, we're not. Just to be clear, I'm not asking them to defend every single thing Biden or the Democrats do. I'm asking them not to actively tarnish them, right? Like a do no harm type of thing. Like, I do think it does lasting damage, not only to the local area, but to its brand nationally. When you have someone in a purple state in a deeply competitive race that decides to just trash talk the DNC, Pelosi, Schumer.
I don't know. Well, okay, I think maybe, I don't know how much
things.
distance there is. We should clarify, I think, what we're talking about then. I can't speak for Hutch. I would be surprised if he disagrees. I don't think any of us are saying that, like, if you're in a purple district, you need to go on TV and be like, fuck Biden, I hope he dies. I hate the Democrats. They suck shit as a party. Like, let's go, new, independent. I don't think anybody's saying that. But it's just like, if somebody asks you a question, like, if it's 2027... and somebody, our House majority, if a Schumer or a Jeffries type person has a question on, like, what was going on with Biden and the border, I think they should fight for their life on that position. Fuck you. Biden did better on the border than Trump did. And the 20, 30, 40 million people that came in was a fucking lie. The wall didn't get built. That was a fucking lie. ICE didn't do fucking anything. That was a fucking lie. And fight on that. But that's a job for them after the election. If you're running a competitive race on these upcoming midterms and somebody asks you, what do you think Biden did on the border? We're not saying, like, Biden let in 30 million illegals to kill and eat our children, but more just like, I think that Biden dropped the ball on the border. It was the thing we could have improved on, and, we look forward to doing that in the midterms, blah, blah, blah. Just like that type of thing. I don't think anybody's saying, like, it needs to be a full-on, like,
Well, let's clarify from Hutch then. Is that really all you're saying by throw people under the bus, that, we can just be a little critical of the DNC sometimes?
I mean, ideally, but like when I look at Plattner in Maine, I don't like hearing it. I'm not a fan of his, but it really seems to have worked with that electorate. And so I'm of the mind right now that just do whatever you do, like you need to do to win that seat. Like, that's just so important to me. And then, like, for Democrats to become obstructionists, like, those are typically the most vulnerable Democrats when it comes to primaries. So, if they use that rhetoric and then actually get elected, and then they're, actually adversarial actively, like, while they're in Congress, those Democrats that don't play nice are typically have like a shorter shelf life than the ones that do play ball. So,
but the Democrats aren't winning in Maine. I mean, the first person that Graham Plattner attacked once he won the primary was the Democrats. And so you can talk about him having a D in front of his name all you want, but I mean, I don't, we can, I feel like the whole intention, right, is to be willing to pull some kind of a vote blue no matter who, so that way the arguments in Congress are between different shades of blue instead of between blue and red. And while I can understand that.
Okay, I will actually, if you make me defend Plattner too much, I will rope on stream, okay? To say that Plattner attacked the Dems as soon as he came into office, this was after a series of the most weak sauce, insane hit pieces, okay, on the fucking planet, all right? That New York Times piece of, like, he took her by the shoulders and he put her in a room 20 years ago. Like, if Plattner attacks the Dems after he wins the primary, I think he's got like a week or two of that where you got to let him slide, I think. A little bit, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think that when Chuck Schumer comes out and fully endorses you, and the Democratic Party comes out and fully endorses you, I think that calling the Democrats a bunch of pedophiles is I don't think it's just distasteful. I think it's a whole fucking statement.
What is it?
Sorry,
was
what did he?
that
What did he
statement?
say?
Yeah.
He accused the Democrats of being the Epstein class. He said Democrats and Republicans in the Epstein class. So,
Sure.
I mean,
I don't like this. I don't like that saying. And for a
how
variety
is
of
that
reasons.
not calling them pedophiles?
Well, I mean, like that's a much broader thing, right?
Is it?
How? What is the connection to Epstein?
Class is
Well,
that they went
Epstein
and
is
they took kids to
pedophiles.
an island and they fucked them, or at least
Well-
that's the thing, right?
I mean, isn't the idea right that there are a few elites, maybe some Democrats that went to the island? Isn't that the whole idea?
Yeah, but it's more.
So
It's more. It's a populist. It's fucking brain rot populism. Which, listen, I hate it literally more than everybody on the fucking planet. But I don't think that's the same as him saying that like everybody on the Democratic Party are all pedophiles and they're all part of the Epstein class.
Sure.
Even
That's
Ossoff
what
like
people
alludes
hear.
to like, yeah, I know, I don't like it. But would we rather have Plattner or would we, I mean, here's a question: would you rather have Plattner or fucking Mills?
I don't like the fact that I am going to have to point to the fact that that I've never supported Graham Plattner if I ever criticize somebody's morals ever again. And I'm
Why
gonna
would
have to
that
do
matter? Who's playing that game? Didn't Lindsey Graham say something on TV after the Garland thing? Where was it Lindsey Graham who was like, we would never block any Supreme Court justice or whatever, and then like they instantly changed their rules the second they have the chance to put in was it Gorsuch that they nuked the filibuster to put it like
Yeah,
these
I mean,
people Americans don't
Republicans lie
care.
as they
Americans,
breathe.
yeah, Americans in
Yeah, but I
general.
don't want to become that party, right?
But
I don't want to
let's-
become that. party.
but
There is no
what
virtue
choice-
on the road to defeat. It doesn't matter if we can't win
But
seats.
we're talking, okay, but we're not talking just one election. I'm talking
Yes.
about a more long-term. I want to consistently win, not just win the next one, right?
Yeah,
I want to
like
go ahead.
we're talking about one seat out of a 50-person Senate. And we're talking about accepting all
Collins,
this
not
damage
Mills. Fuck, I
over
keep mixing their names
one
up.
seat in Maine. And
But what
like
choice do
where
you
we're
have?
at.
What,
I mean,
what
well,
choice do you have? Like not
the
not
choice
vote
we
for
have-
not support Plattner. I mean, I don't understand how at this point after 10 years of the Trump era and the Republicans have been losing their minds for the last 30 fucking years. It's just I mean, I don't like Plattner. I don't like him as a candidate. I don't like his politics. I don't like his rhetoric, but I don't have any hesitation in me whatsoever to support this guy. I donated $50 to his campaign. Like there's just
didn't
what
have
choice
to.
do we have?
Yeah.
What choice
The Democratic Party isn't polling at 30% because we don't have a seat in Maine. That's not the change. That's not what's going to change this crisis that the party and that the movement is facing. If we could just accept Plattner and we can just accept his, everything he's doing, everything he's saying, that's going to change everything.
You don't need to do
That's
that.
not how
You
it
don't
Yeah, but
need
also
to do
the
that.
Democrats aren't
You just-
polling
you just
low
need to-
because
you just need-
vulnerable
you just need
Dems
to
haven't
accept that
fought.
he's the
One at a
candidate.
time, please.
You just have to accept that he's the candidate. He's the guy that the voters of Maine chose. You don't have to fucking gargle his nutsack. You don't have to
You don't have to
I mean,
give him
$50
$50.
donation is
Right?
kind of
That's
gargling his
wild.
nutsack.
You can be honest about the fact that you don't like his character. You have questions about him, but that shouldn't dissuade you from taking the only action that makes sense in this spot in the face of Trump and MAGA.
Do you worry that your support of Plattner, as tepid as it might be with all the caveats that you've made, might do long-term harm in the future, right? When people go and,
Well, what do you think is more harmful? Like Plattner winning and being a Democrat in the Senate, or Republicans continuing to control that chamber of Congress?
that's not the question. The question is which is more harmful. The fact that the Democrats elected and supported and donated to a man who lied about having a Nazi tattoo and all these other really big red flags that people have huge issues with, or Senator Collins getting elected again and voting with Trump 80, 75% of the
It was
time, whatever.
one senator that blocked us from a
95% of the
public
time.
option. Why are we acting like Senate seats are a thing to be gambled with right now? We have problems with the Democratic Party's brand. Those problems need to be alleviated from strong blue seats and the Democratic media. That's it. It's never going to be repaired by people fighting in vulnerable districts when conservatives are allowed to dictate what the party is to the American people. You cannot fight back on that from a vulnerable seat.
You repair the reputation with good policy and competent governance. Like the Shapiro is a really good example of this in a microcosm in the state of Pennsylvania. Just replicate that at the national level. It's not easy, but it's
You know what
straightforward.
Shapiro did? He stand the Democratic Party. He was an unapologetic Democrat in a very purple state. And guess what, gang? It worked, right? He didn't have
he's
to
had some shade for
apologize for being
Biden.
a Democrat.
He's had some shade for Biden and Kamala, I believe. I'm
Okay,
pretty
but
Well, I
sure.
mean,
You know,
nobody needs to be a sycophant. I don't think anybody here is
yeah, we're
arguing
not
that
asking for them
everybody
to
needs
like.
to be a sycophant. But I think I can't get past this idea that's like, oh well, you know, if we can just push just like a couple of things over the edge, it's going to solve this big gaping hole. And I would say the big gaping hole that we have is the problems that came when we were in power. When we talk about, you know, while Biden was in power, that's where the damage came. The damage came from when we were in these offices, and that's why people don't want to put us back. And in order to do that, you do have to criticize ideas, but you shouldn't be throwing out the baby with the bathwater, because then any repairs that you're doing, it isn't actually repairing the party. It's just repairing that one individual. And I think that that's kind of the big difference here. I think the big difference is that like I don't think also that like, you know, Graham Plattner, for example, needs to be going out to all these town halls that he's doing and saying, I know you guys have a problem with the Democrats, but let me tell you about how great they are. I think there's a big line between him having to do that and him calling people and him doing what he's doing. And other candidates doing the same. In fact, Hutch, I think you brought up a really great point that Tallarico is actually doing what you described the best. He really isn't throwing the Democrat Party under the bus. But he is also very, very carefully and very accurately addressing some of these problems. And I would say that he is a case study of what I would say it should look like.
I agree. I think he's doing a really good job. It's like a soft kind of distance, but it is there. It is distance. But I'm also thinking about races like in Iowa. This guy Sand, who's running for that seat in a state that's voted for Trump by 10 points, I think, in the last 3 elections. I'm thinking about like the independent guy running in Nebraska. It's not just about like, you know, defending light blue seats or being competitive in purple seats. It's also, you know, like we need to start targeting seats that are Trump +5 or Trump +10. And in those states and in those districts, you probably are going to have to be a little bit more firm in setting that distance. And you probably shouldn't be pulling too many punches when it comes
Where's
to
the line for you on this, right? Like how much, if say someone's running in Iowa, like you said, a Trump +10 district, right? And he wants to win, and he thinks, you know what, the only way I can win is I have to go as hard against the Democrats as possible. Is there a line where you'd say, okay, that's too much, even if it would increase your chances of winning? I don't think you should do this.
I'm sure there is a line, but I'm open to a lot of things if it means like flipping an R+10 seat. Like I'm open to someone, you know, running on some of the MAGA language on the border, for example, if it meant pushing them over the finish line.
Or what about abortion? Say someone was like, you know what, I hate abortions and I want to outlaw abortions in my state.
I think in like an again, if it's about flipping an R+10
it
seat,
increases their chance of flipping the seat. It doubles their chances.
Stop. Hold on. This isn't a fair question. That's like saying like, oh, so would you support a Democrat if they would vote alongside Republicans on every important issue? No. We're talking about rhetoric here. We're talking about like, quote unquote, throwing somebody under the buses and distancing yourself from their administration, akin to some kind of like populist type rhetoric. We're not talking about like, well, what if would you still vote for them if they would vote for, you know, outlawing all abortion?
No, they say they would. You know, that this is the rhetoric they're using to get elected.
I don't know if that's a real thing where you could just totally fabricate or lie about your positions and then get elected after.
What do you think Trump did? What do you think Trump did? He fabricated and lied about all his positions. No new wars. All these things. It worked.
Yeah, but
I'm not.
I think it's a. I don't think. I think that's a. There's a difference there that I can't fully enunciate right now. If it was the policy of like generally Democrats elected people to lie about shit and then get in office and then do shit, then they fucking lied about it, then that would be based. But the idea of like having just like the whole Republican Party does that. The idea of like trying to get a couple hyper-specific Democrats to lie about particular policy to get elected. I mean, I guess in that case, I would be in favor of it if you could demonstrate that was like a possible thing. That just seems like a little bit extraordinary for Democrats to do right now.
We're kind of revisiting a topic that was broached by Ezra Klein like a year ago, the pro-life Democrat in Missouri or whatever state. It was like the worst example he could have given because abortion's not popular for the Republican Party right now. But on other things like being more hawkish on the border, being, more laissez-faire when it comes to like gun laws. These are, I'm not just talking about lying, by the way. I'm talking about like propping up candidates that will connect and resonate with the primary voters of that state and the general voters as well. So it's not just about like rhetoric. It's about like literally widening the tent and welcoming people that, maybe were a part of this coalition 20 years ago, but now serve or going for a district or a state that has been firmly red for like the last 2 decades. How else do we like build that Obama coalition?
Sure.
If not,
Well,
Yeah,
but this
let's
is the key difference here that I think keeps getting missed is like I heard you say that, oh well, maybe they should be more laissez-faire on regulations about firearms, and it's like the Democrats should be more laissez-faire about firearms because it's a popular policy. It shouldn't be the Democrats are the problem and I'm the savior and I'm Graham Plattner and I'm not going to ban assault weapons. The problem is with the policy. An unpopular policy should be challenged on a policy level, but not as a party. And I think that's the big problem is that we need to be able to grow as a party. And if we move forward on the policies with our candidates, then that's great. But we also need to bring the party along with it. I mean, that's the repair that needs to come.
well, I think some people have the goal of like perfect unanimity or like more unity within the party. I think I have an opposite goal. Like like my goal is to, be an actual Big Tent party because I don't think it is possible to get to enough popularity with voters to have like strong majorities in the Congress and the presidency running like a hyper-partisan Democrat, or rather like what the platform has looked like for maybe like the last like 10 years. Like I think we have to be a party of people that, roll out the welcome mat for people who kind of buck the current orthodoxy.
I don't disagree with that, but I do think at the same time, we need to make it more attractive to come into the tent, right?
Yeah.
We need to make it like these R+10 districts and things like that. It's because they do not like Democrats, right? I forget what district it is, but there's districts, I wish I could remember off the top of my head. I'm blanking on it. But the Democratic candidate drops out so that the independent can run because
It's Nebraska. It's in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah, the people won't vote for someone with a D next to their name. They just won't do it, right? And so we run the independent as the actual candidate that we want to run. And
that's actually not even the case. He's not going to he's not going to caucus with the Democrats. Like, but the Democrats know they can't win that seat. So like it's
better than the Republican, right?
Yeah, that's a smart decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the problem is with that strategy is it just kicks the can down the road further and further and further. And what I am talking about is the need, and I think what Bishop is talking about as well, and he can speak for himself though, is the need to rebuild the Democratic brand. And I think that the responsibility, and I'll disagree with Destiny here, the responsibility is on people who run in a competitive or even in a lean R district, right? I think that they do bear some responsibility. Again, I'm not asking for complete and total lockstep purity testing, all that shit. What I'm asking for is you simply don't call the DNC the Epstein class. You don't throw Chuck Schumer, Pelosi, Biden, all of our leadership under the bus because one, I don't think that it will work long term, not for the Democratic Party. It might work for that specific candidate, but long term, it's led us to the place that we are today. And the place that we are today is not great.
And Hutch, I think for me, I want what you just described, which is a Big Tent organization. I would like for there to be Democrats of all flavors, right? I'm a Virginian. I am a very typical like Southern Democrat, where I think a lot of other Democrats would consider me a moderate Democrat on a lot of issues like the Second Amendment, for example, and yeah, and maybe this is just like me projecting, but like what I want to see from my politicians and from this Big Tent party is us bringing these policies into the Democratic Party so that the voters can say, yeah, but the Democrats do right in our elections. On our state politics, we don't have as much of an aversion to this because one of these things, like what we saw with Kamala Harris, was she just carried so much baggage. She carried so much baggage because people were associating all of these negative things with her, even though she was campaigning on an entirely different issue. And I think it's a matter of if we're going to build that big tent, then we need to be able to associate those new ideas with the Democratic Party.
I believe that the reputation that the parties have comes from the media. I don't think individual politicians can do almost anything to change this, and looking to politicians themselves to try to change this, I think it's a fool's errand. I think it's impossible.
I think the president is enormously influential in terms of for the incumbent party.
Yeah.
And so like Obama had a huge, hugely positive impact for like the party brand, not just here in the States, but across the world. He had some problems, like obviously with the ACA being unpopular.
He got crushed. How many was it, 6 sessions in a row, whatever, that they didn't have majorities in the Congress? Didn't he have a fuck Congress for so long?
That's because he spent all the political capital that he had, and not just him, but Democrats voted for the ACA knowing that they were going to lose their seats. So they did sacrifice. I mean, that is what political capital is. It's just like losing seats to get a policy across the finish line. And at the same time, that happened at after the housing crash. So I mean, he was going to have a rough go of it regardless. But he is by far the most popular politician in the country. I believe to this day, definitely the most popular Democrat in the country. And so, Biden just wasn't, he was a good president. He did good policies for the most part, but he was just a horrible spokesman. And unfortunately, I think that's a big part of the job. So I think a lot of the damage that you guys are worried about in terms of the brand and like, how do we fix that? A lot of that falls on who the Democratic primary voters pick in 2028. And then after that, it depends on how they govern.
Certainly there are other factors at play here. It's not just any one thing. There's no, unfortunately, magic solution or magic bullet that we can use to fix all the problems of the Democratic Party. That's just not possible, and I think it's beyond the scope of this conversation. I do disagree with Destiny, though, that nothing that the candidates do can really fix this issue, and it's all the media's fault. I would agree that the media absolutely bears a lot of the blame here, and how they talk about it, and how streamers and influencers and journalists and etc. all frame these issues and discuss these issues absolutely matters. I would never disagree, but I just reject the notion that there's nothing Democratic politicians or candidates can do to change that fact. I think that if they are wise and message better and have better rhetoric, that it can mitigate some of the problems that come from a negative media environment or a corrupt media environment that we find ourselves in. And to think otherwise is just, why do anything at all? Why not just fucking get up there and say a bunch of slurs and then just let the media do what they do, right?
You mean like the Republicans do?
I
mean, are they winning right now?
I mean,
let's not do this.
Yeah,
let's not do this again.
Let's not. But
one of the things that I'm really worried about is, like, we see that, like, the state of the modern Republican Party is, a lot of people, and I swear Kamala Harris got so much flack for this, and maybe I just see this more because I'm in the pro-Ukraine space. But the truth is, the more moderate run, the calling to these other values and saying, hey, we are defenders of democracy, we are defenders of these values. It did bring a lot of people that are traditionally conservative over to the Democratic side. I mean, I inhabit a space of politics where all of the Reagan Republicans fucking hate Trump. And they fucking hate MAGA, and they are at least not voting if they're not converted on the political side. And we've seen groups of people flop from voting for Obama, and then millions of people went from Obama to voting for Donald Trump. And so I think that there is a manner of being able to, like, win voters over. It depends, I mean, on leadership. And I agree, Destiny, that we have such a such a very particular media environment, and the way that media influences public opinion and things of that matter is something that our brains are just categorically, well, they're just not evolved to handle. And the media has gotten very good at taking advantage of that. But I also think that, like, at the end of the day, it's leadership that's responsible for these things. It's party leadership, it's political leadership, and they are the ones that we're supposed to look to move us forward as a society.
I feel like I want to point out that part of Trump's success, or a big part of, you would say a crucial part of his success in 2016, was kind of torching the Republican Party. Like, I don't like that this is the case, but where we're at right now with the electorate is probably a vast majority of the country is dissatisfied with both parties. And we can do the thing where we can get really wonky and explain, well, no, actually the border wasn't as big of a problem because of this and this. Like, you've already kind of lost the debate at that point. It's just, these are really complex issues, especially when you get into like policy. Right. And so for me, it just makes more sense to just not necessarily fight against the current vibes and like use those vibes to your strength. And you don't have to permanently toss the party under the bus, but we're going to have to rebuild at some point. And in order to do that, you can't ignore like how voters feel, even if those feelings are wrong.
I understand, but here one of the things you just said is precisely my worry. You are correct. In 2016, one of the major reasons that Donald Trump was able to be successful, not only in the primary but in the general election, is because he torched the Republican Party as a whole. That has had disastrous effects for the Republican Party, the Republicans' brand.
It's gone.
It has more. It's basically dead. It's a hollowed out shell. It's now infested by parasites called MAGA.
But Trump is completely.
They'll be back in 2032, bro. Don't worry. They'll be fine. It's American politics. No, we go back.
But Trump is what's happened to their values in the meantime. I mean, the Iran warhawks in the Republican Party are crying themselves to sleep right now.
I mean, that's fine, but this didn't happen because exposed Republicans in competitive races decided to torch the party. It was because the guy who won the presidential election, who should be the biggest champion of your party, was completely antithetical to the party. I think it's a different, like, I don't think I would want, if somebody was running for president, I don't know if I want the person running for president to throw the entire Democratic Party under the bus.
Even if it would win?
Sure. You're asking hypotheticals that are almost antithetical to what we'd even imagine of a Democratic candidate to be. Like, if you're saying, like, would you want somebody to win the Democratic candidacy if they pledged to, like, have the Aryan race, secede as, like, the master race in the United States? I can't fathom that.
You're being hyperbolic.
I'm not being hyperbolic. The Democratic Party brand, I would argue, has been relatively consistent through time, at least in my lifetime. Like, if you look at the politics of Clinton compared to the politics of Obama compared to the politics of Biden, there's like a relative amount of stability there. So it's hard for me to fathom a hypothetical where you say, well, what if the next person running for office was able to win by throwing all the previous Democratic establishment under the bus?
You wouldn't have to throw all the previous establishment under the bus, but I can imagine an AOC or similar style candidate, even though I think AOC has moderated quite a fair bit, and I actually kind of like her now. But that's beside the point. I can imagine a candidate like that getting up and saying, hey, Democrats have been the problem. The era of Clinton, Obama, and Biden just hasn't worked, and we need to do something different, and we need to really change this and go off on the most populist brain rot you can possibly imagine. And I can imagine that candidate possibly winning in this environment. But I think that would be a disaster.
Yeah, I think that would be bad because it would set the tone from the very top that it would completely change the party. I think that would be bad. We would want these other people in exposed districts, if they had to win, we would want them to potentially distance from the Democratic Party brand in service of furthering the Democratic Party's political goals. If the president or person running for president throws the entire Democratic Party under the bus, well, then it seems like we're moving now on a different path to further a different set of goals, which, depending on the person, I probably wouldn't be okay with.
Sure. But one of the problems that we're having, and one of the things that I am concerned about, and one of the reasons that I wanted to have this conversation, is because I feel like people like Plattner, people like the guy who just won in Philadelphia, what was his name? Crab?
Yep.
Well, maybe it was. I might have been Philadelphia. I might have been somewhere else. Anyway, what they're doing is they're building a precedent, and this precedent is going to be referenced, argued for, advocated for and possibly even used by candidates going forward, not just in competitive districts, but districts all over the nation. Because and one of the things about politics is it has become nationalized in a way it wasn't 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that has had unfortunate effects. And I think that this precedent that's being set, and this precedent that we set by saying it's okay to trash the Democrats if it helps you win, is going to be used by bad actors to make that the new normal. And it's a problem. And we are playing into it. And I don't think we need to, frankly. I don't
Yeah.
think we need to do that to win. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, and by the way, if you can only win by throwing the party under the bus and by throwing Biden as a whole under the bus, you don't deserve to win. Like there is just this huge problem. Tell me how we're looking at the state of Maine while Graham Plattner is tripping over obstacle over obstacle over obstacle, and nobody else has the ability to step forward and take charge in that election. Mills was still in the election, and she wasn't able to capitalize on the absolute implosion that he's facing. And so,
That's more on Schumer. Schumer's more to blame for all that than anybody else. He recruited Mills and then they didn't support her. And so, I think Plattner's a bit of an anomaly. I still think right now, even though we're seeing some high profile like DSA types win elections across the country, they are for the most part like almost exclusively limited to already like very blue.
Yeah, but
seats.
I'm worried about the rhetoric that they use becoming
Yeah.
normalized, because I think that
Yeah.
the rhetoric matters. I think that the rhetoric
they've been doing that
drives
for, like,
discourse, drives perception, and I think perception matters in how people vote. Like you said, people have the memory of goldfish in a lot of ways, and that comes to policy too, right? You can have the best policy in the world, and I think Biden had great policies in a lot of ways. Didn't matter because the rhetoric, right, wasn't communicated properly. And a whole bunch of other issues as well. And then we have what we have today, not because Biden failed as a president in his policies, but because of how those policies were communicated, interpreted, and all the other things surrounding it. And I think that, yeah, we are in kind of crisis mode right here.
And
Didn't
I
you?
think
Who said here that wasn't Obama the best or whatever most memorable president or whatever? Did he destroy
Popular.
the Democratic Party brand? Like, didn't Obama kind of run as an outsider a little bit? Right, that was Hillary's nomination. I'm hold on. I'm sorry. I'm dramatically underselling it. Obama definitely ran as an outsider. Hillary was like the candidate who was supposed to win that election. Like when Obama entered that primary, I don't want to say he was quite as behind as like Bernie, but I don't think many people saw that as that serious initially. And then he gained a lot of popularity, and then that was considered a huge upset. And I feel like Obama talked quite a bit, right? Hope and change, hope and change, hope and change, about changing, the direction of the country and everything else. So I don't think that did lasting damage to the party there. I think there are ways to message separate.
Well, there's a difference.
I'll let Bishop take it.
Yeah, I you're completely right. But once again, this is the difference in rhetoric that we're talking about. There's a big difference in talking about repair and, talking about hope and change, and talking about demolition, which is saying that we need to overthrow the entire system because they're all a part of the Epstein class. I think that there's an outrageously important difference. And one of the things that Whick is talking to, it's so funny as we're talking, I'm kind of sometimes getting swayed a little bit, and then I'm getting swayed back and forth as we continue to talk about this. But the rhetoric is so important, because I think about somebody like Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani, very popular right now, seeming very, very successful. But because he's in office, and because the rhetoric he's used was allowed, and because he is encouraging more of that rhetoric, he's backing somebody who seems to almost explicitly be against aid to Ukraine because she's the DSA candidate. I mean, she apparently her campaign severed contact with Progressive Victory when they started trying to corner her about her position on Ukraine. And then when you look at somebody like, let's give another example with Bernie Sanders, who didn't even win the election, but because we accepted his rhetoric into the party and we incorporated it into the party, we've just had 10 years of him endorsing nightmare after nightmare in American politics, whether they're political pundits, whether they're political candidates. And it just goes to show that the spread of this stuff, it needs to be addressed, and we can't pretend. I think it is so silly to sit here and be like, oh, well, the rhetoric on a winning campaign isn't going to impact the perceptions of a political party. I don't understand how you could even really make that argument.
I think I would agree real quick. I would agree on both of those points. Although maybe these people could do better for endorsements, but I think that furthers my argument that this is maybe the job of people who are in super ultra safe blue seats. Like Bernie and Mamdani are not facing heavy Republican opposition, and I think sometimes our furthest left in the country maybe spends a little bit too much time criticizing the party rather than trying to build the brand up. I don't know if I would go as far as to say Mamdani has done a poor job of that. I feel like for the most part, I know this particular candidate, people feel a certain type of way about the Ukraine stuff, but I mean, these are not vulnerable seated people that are doing big damage to the party, I don't think.
Of all the sitting members of Congress, how often are we thinking about or centering their campaign rhetoric in the last campaign that they did in the discourse? Like, I feel like that just like never happens. Like,
well,
once you get
it only happens when it's a problem, right?
Well, what do
like
you mean? Well, what do you mean? I'm saying like a year. Let's say Plattner wins. So like, do you think in a year we're going to be talking about his campaign rhetoric, or do you think we're going to be talking about his vote?
How much does
record?
Fetterman right now
At least
define
every
the
6
average
years.
Democrat? How many people in the Democrat are like, man, Fetterman, wow, that's a guy we all should be like? How many Democrats are like, man, Manchin and Sinema, these are, yeah, wow, that's what we got to be like, guys?
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm a big
sort
Manchin
of
fan,
got
but it's fine.
Well,
the mix.
I'm saying that Manchin, hold on, hold on. Why are you trying to trigger the fuck out of me, Hutch? When you say you're a Manchin fan, you mean that you were a fan of the Democratic senator in West Virginia, right? But I imagine you probably wouldn't have been you wouldn't have been happy with him if he was like a California senator or like a New York senator, right?
Correct.
Yeah. What I mean is that like these guys who are in the vulnerable seats that sometimes have like these positions that are a little bit not in line with the party or a little bit out of line with the party, they don't define the rhetoric for the rest of the party. It's not like the whole party became Manchin and Cinemas. The whole party hasn't become John Fetterman's because of the people who are in the vulnerable areas, having off-brand takes.
Yes, but in the area, like the person who sits in Manchin's seat, I believe, is a Republican now.
Yeah.
Because, again, Manchin built his brand, but it did nothing for the Democratic brand. And in fact, I think that Manchin
it did while he was in office. We got votes.
The problem that we have. It worked for Manchin, and it worked for no one else because the Democratic brand was brought to ruin.
Yeah, but
because of our media, not because of our legislation.
It's both.
No. That's not why Manchin. That's not why Manchin fell from grace. His popularity tanked after he supported Biden's agenda, and then there was a revolt from West Virginia voters. Like his support for the ARP and the IRA and the infrastructure bill in a state that's like coal country, you can track like his approval rating. It fell off of a cliff when he voted for Biden's agenda. That's what lost him that seat.
Yeah.
Fair. That's a fair point.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And once again, I mean, I think that this might just be me being, I don't want to say pedantic, but stuck on the issue where I think that when you have candidates, let's say in red areas or purple areas, whatever, that adopt policy issues that run contrary to the typical Democratic Party issues, I think that's fine. But I think what's important is to tie that to the Democratic Party in that area, because like we're seeing it in some races, to be a Democrat is just to be poison. And it's up to leadership. It's up to political leadership. It's up to these campaigns to be able to change that. And you could say that, oh well, Nancy
I gotta ask,
Pelosi needs to.
How can they change it? These people are nobody on the media stage, right?
Is Nancy Pelosi supposed to fly to rural Kentucky and craft a political movement, or are we supposed to have political leaders from their local areas?
First of all, even Nancy Pelosi, I think in 2 or 3 midterms ago, was it over the BLM? Even Nancy Pelosi was telling people to throw her under the bus if she thought it would help them win their races. That might even be a direct quote from Nancy Pelosi. But what I'm saying is that Plattner does not have a YouTube channel. Plattner does not have a podcast. He does not have a media presence anywhere. It's just whoever decides to. Well,
I mean, he has a colossal media presence right now. The whole world is listening to everything he says.
No, I'm saying that he can't craft a message. These people in vulnerable areas aren't able to craft messages. Even Gavin Newsom is the closest thing maybe that we have to it. But for the most part, it's up to if you don't have any kind of messaging arm for your party, nobody is going to be able to message for the party. If you were a Democrat, let's say that you're Ken Martin right now and you want to establish, you know what, the Democratic Party, we're going to have a stronger position on Israel. It's going to be no more aid, no defensive, whatever weapons, if Israel can't agree to ABC, to some, conditions for peace in the Gaza Strip, to some conditions for normalizing relations with Lebanon and Hezbollah even, or whatever the fuck, I don't know what it is, but if Ken Martin wanted to message that, where the fuck would that even go to? Where would you take that message? I'm asking you a specific question. Where would you take that message? What platform?
You would find an advocacy group that agrees with you, that has this infrastructure in place, and you would push it forward.
There's nobody. There's nobody. If I were to ask you this, I were to say, Trump, I think that for a Trump thing, Trump should say, we need to nuke Iran, okay? Okay, but that's just Trump. Actually, Trump does have his own media platform. Where did Trump go? Trump could go to Fox News. Trump could go to Joe Rogan. Trump could go to all these platforms. He could put out and that message will be heard crystal clear, and it will ring from the mountaintops, okay, in the United States, all the way down to the valleys of California, okay? And everybody will hear that message crystal clear. But that's not because Trump is a great messenger or because they're on point or whatever else. It's because their whole media apparatus is built out to message these things. I think you're asking too much from vulnerable seated Dems for people who are running for Congress who have smaller platforms than you, Whick. Honestly, they can't message anything. I'm not making fun of you, but I feel like some of these people running for Congress will have like a Twitter account with like 2,000 followers, and then like they get like 1 like per tweet, and nobody knows about them. Their mom fucking runs whatever shit. Maybe for a congressional office is a little larger, but like a lot of these people, they just don't have like the ability to get out here and have like massive messages to repair the Democratic Party brand. So everything they do is just going to be at the detriment to themselves without really helping the Democratic brand at all. Trying to do some impossible mission of rehabilitating a brand that they have no control over. Yeah.
I'm asking specifically for them to do no harm, because you better believe that message of them calling all the Democrats an Epstein class will be picked up by media apparatuses that are
I don't think they should call all the Democrats the Epstein class. I don't think anybody's done that, though. But I don't think they should do that.
I mean, I also... sorry, Hutch, you go on.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I find it a little bit odd to be making the argument that we aren't going to be holding political leaders accountable because they don't personally run CNN and they don't have a lot of Twitter followers. Like, I maybe I'm just completely delusional, but I feel like the political leadership is responsible for political messaging within a political party. And I also think that it's I mean, and you could talk, this frankly is a political party responsibility, not a political candidate responsibility, to be able to provide access to the media for those political candidates to get that message out. But it's still the political candidates and not the news anchors that are getting the message out. I feel like this is like almost a weird little technicality.
It sounds like a weird, it's not absolving. Okay, why? Okay.
I mean, I completely, I understand exactly what you're saying about, like, okay, well, if Trump wanted to stand at a podium and say something, nobody would be able to hear them unless there was a camera there.
Giving them friendly, suck off coverage, right? Mallory McBrough sucked on the Matt Bernstein show. Slotkin sucked on Breaking Points. And when I say sucked, I don't mean they had a bad performance. They did the best they could, but they were thrown to the lion's den. You're never coming out of interviews like that with a strong message and with people looking at you and be like, oh yeah, this is a candidate I want to back. It's like, did you fucking survive the experience? And if every single Democratic politician has to go into some environment where the goal is to just fucking survive and hope you don't give somebody a clip to a character assassinate you with, you're not going to do anything. You're just it's hopeless.
Well, would you agree that the media apparatuses that do that you're discussing are toxic to the Democrat brand?
Fuck no. That's why I said at the very beginning of this, I was like, different responsibilities. Whatever rhetoric we're talking about for the Democratic brand here, if you got to under the bus them a little bit to win in a vulnerable state, then fine. That's not what I think the media should be doing. What, didn't we just get our 57th fucking book announced yesterday about Biden's senility? I think I saw some fucking guy was writing, like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fuck me, dude.
What was Jake Tapper book or
no, another guy. Some ex-White House fucking loser.
Fuck him. Okay, but understand, if you as a candidate know, and you should know, I think it's your responsibility if you're going to run for office to know that these media environments exist, right? Then you know that if you give anti-democratic messaging, this media apparatus will pick it up and propagate it and spread it for you. And if you want airtime, which you probably do as a candidate, right, with 2,000 who your mom runs the account, right? Then you're going to be looking to try to do that. And that's part of the problem. These problems go hand in hand. They're not unrelated or disconnected. It's part of they're different bricks that are making up a wall that are keeping us out of power in a large way. And I'm asking the brick, right, in this incident, it's a candidate, don't give ammo to these people.
But I don't think you can. I don't think you can eliminate that tension. That tension within the Democratic Party is just always going to be there. Like you're gonna have politicians like Ilhan Omar and AOC, and now Chris Rabb, and you're gonna have these other politicians in the Democratic Party. There's going to be a wide cavern between them on policy, and I don't know how to get rid of the tension.
It's worse than it's ever been.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have
I don't think this is
candidates running as
socialists. Worse than it's ever been.
Yeah, but why is it worse than it's ever been? It's worse than it's ever been. It has nothing to do with the Democrats. It has everything to do with the fact that Republicans have defined what the Democratic Party is for like the past decade.
Well,
like what does everybody jerk off on the left and right about what Kamala's worst ad was, which I don't even think it was, like, statistically speaking, her worst ad, but everybody jerks off about it. Was like the Kamala's for they, them, and Donald Trump is for fucking loser, fat fuck American trailer park trash, okay? How the fuck is this even a message when Kamala didn't spend any of her fucking time talking about trans people in her entire fucking campaign? This was a statement she made in like 2019. Is that Kamala's fault for messaging? Was it an exposed Democrats' fault? No, it's because the Republican media apparatus has defined what the Democratic Party is. We're looking to politicians.
I think it is Kamala's fault or being perceived as hyper progressive when in 2019 she was making public advocations for how we could figure out to legislate reparations.
In 2019, in 2024, Donald Trump called himself the president of no new wars, and in 2025, we just lost the worst war in U.S. history. Well, I mean, like, it's a media problem.
Trump is absolutely ridiculous, and what he gets away with, and I'm too small brained to understand how he gets away with murdering.
He doesn't get away with it because of politicians. He gets away with it because of Fox News, because of the media. Sure. But there's no politician that could have made Trump as popular as it is. It's the relationship between media and political class on the Republican side, where their whole messaging apparatus is done by the media. They don't think about this. They don't think about how to message a policy thing. The media does it for them. And then on the Democratic side, you're trying to message into an entire world that is hostile towards you. That's not possible.
I think two things can be true at once. I think, obviously, we have a really horrific media environment. I think the liberal movement and the Democratic Party at large needs to outrageously look at their failures in the media environment and what they can do to remedy that. And I think that's true. But simultaneously, and I might just be misinterpreting things, but I feel like the direction this conversation is going is that there is no real room to hold political leadership responsible for the things they say, and there is no fun. At the end of the day, it's not up to the political leaders that are running to be governors, to be congressmen, to be not president, because and I agree, we've established that some races are more important than others. But I feel like we're making the argument that it isn't their responsibility. They're absolved of whatever they say, because at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter because the media is going to spin it negatively. So fuck it, say whatever you want.
They're not absolved of anything.
Because there's a bigger problem doesn't mean this isn't a problem.
There's obviously a boundary. I don't want somebody going up there and saying, like, I don't support Biden because I think he ate children. Okay, obviously there is going to be some boundary, but I'm just saying that messaging and Democratic Party
Hutch,
brand.
What about you?
What's the question? Is there a boundary? I feel like I answered that question.
Iowa could go up and say Biden loved eating children and they were guaranteed to win.
No, that would be too far.
Yeah,
so yes, there's a theoretical
I was just
too
curious
far.
because you've bitten some bullets in the past, Hutch. Okay, you've bitten some.
No,
bullets.
I'm more thinking about like actual concrete policy vulnerabilities for the party. Like I think it's fair game for conservative Democrats running in red districts to basically fully toss Biden under the bus when it comes to the border. Like I agree. I do think he fucked up on the border a bit by not addressing it until the 11th hour.
He addressed it earlier, but Republicans didn't want to do anything on legislation. Don't give anything to the Republicans.
Like they were like on at the midnight of passing legislation, and then Trump asked.
They were, but that bill, I
to-
think, had been in discussion for like 2 years. But there was like, it was thing after thing after thing. It was COVID coming in, the recovery from that. It was October 7th. It was fucking Russia, Ukraine. It was so much. And then like by the time we got back on the, sorry, I'm not trying
Biden
to
and the
center,
Democrats,
but-
they I mean, they
you
passed.
understand. Hold on.
Wait, hold on.
I
Real
think
quick.
this is a
Real quick.
perfect illustration, Hutch.
Real quick.
of
Real
what-
quick. Hold on. Real quick. Biden and the Democrats, they passed a partisan bill through the House. It was filibustered in the Senate, and so it was killed. But that's not really like honestly trying to do something about the border. And we did see just an explosion of border encounters. You know, some way into 2021 to the point where it was like the highest level of border apprehensions I think ever, sustained for like several months. And he didn't really he was spending most of his time in the first 2 years.
Trump got to say nobody comes over because of health reasons, and then we lost it. They tried to fight it back. The issue is that, unfortunately, Biden was not an authoritarian fucking demon who would just arbitrarily executive order what should be done via legislation, right? That the limit caps that we wanted for crossing the border or whatever to cap that if there were too many people that came over, Trump just did that via fucking EO because he doesn't care about the legality of it. That was part of the legislation they tried to do with Biden. They tried to bring back Title 42 to stop the crossings from coming over.
So did Biden. Biden did an EO to cap the border to cap the amount of people that show. Yeah,
he might have at some point, but maybe at the very end. I know they tried to bring back Title 42, but the Supreme Court said no, you're not allowed to do that anymore. And then you had the whole wave of people that wanted to come in naturally, just because the world was kind of shut down for like 6 months at least during the COVID shit. And then once it was
I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming him for that. I understand, like, it wasn't his fault that many people showed up. I mean, there were a lot of things outside of his control.
Do you understand how a candidate in a redder district pushing the narrative that it was his fault and he did do all these things paints a false narrative of what happened, and it makes Democrats look worse on the border?
If 5 candidates from purple areas are able to overcome the 200 or 300 other elected Democrats, then fuck us. Then who cares? Then we deserve to lose everything at that point anyway. That's crazy. It can't possibly be that their ability to signal lightly some distance that it destroys the rest of the party.
The straw that breaks the camel's back doesn't mean it isn't a straw on the back that will eventually break.
No, but
right?
wait, by the time we get to 2028, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I hope it does. By the time we get to 2028, if the Democratic primary voters choose someone that's like a generational talent like Obama, none of the rhetoric from these senators' campaigns are going to matter. Like, that person is going to be the representative for the party, and they're going to be
I'm not going to rely on that, though. I'm not going to if we have a miracle candidate, then it might not matter. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're entertaining
way
Gavin Newsom and AOC right now. It's not looking good in 2026. I know we have 2 years, but like, it's looking really bad.
For 2028?
Yeah.
Why are we not even at the midterms yet?
I know. I said we still have 2 years, but it's like Kamala Harris is still leading in the polls. Like, I think we need to be a little bit more intentional.
But this has kind of always been the game, though. This is like it's a game of inches. You win every seat you can, and then you hope that the primary voters choose like a strong leader. We had generational talents with Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, and then Joe Biden comes around. He's just not that guy in terms of messaging. But that's kind of always been the game. Like, you just claw every seat that you can get, and then you elect the most capable, charismatic, effective messenger, and an effective politician.
You seem to understand the game of inches when it comes to these things, but not when it comes to rhetoric. The game of inches matters there too. And what you're doing is you're sacrificing these policies and not the perception of Democrats as a whole in order to possibly have a better chance at winning a specific seat. And I'm saying that this is you're drinking poison that will eventually kill us.
Well, I don't even know whose messaging is being cited so much as like being destructive to the Democratic Party brand. Like, is this even happening?
Right now it's Plattner's. Right now is the biggest example we got is Plattner.
Is that even like really like I don't. Maybe I just am not that plugged into the media. Hold on, no. I know Democrats have an issue with him for decent reasons, but like, are Republicans undermining Democrats in other districts legitimately because of stuff Plattner has said or done? Is this
Alaska is going to be running against Plattner. Texas is going to be running against Plattner.
We'll see how it turns out.
I would be like, clip it and ship it.
Sure,
if I'm
clip
wrong,
it and
right?
ship it. I would be shocked if Tallarico is an ultra competitive candidate in Texas and they're running like the party of Plattner ads. I don't know. I feel like they'd be more likely to still focus on on like AOC or something. That just seems crazy to me. Also, the Republicans, I don't know.
I mean, they'll probably do
Wick,
a whole host of it, right?
Wick,
Like a whole
they're,
host of people, like
they are
the
going to
party
run
of Biden.
they are going to run
Jay
ads that are going to
Jones,
try to that are going to try to tie the party to Plattner. But his problem is not his rhetoric. His problem is that he has a fucking Nazi tattoo and lied about it, and it's just like a mess. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of
the
other
rhetoric's
Democratic.
also the problem, but yeah, that is.
No, I don't think so. I mean, not on a national level. Like, you're not seeing like ads go up in the Peltola race. You know, focusing on some DSA candidate in Philadelphia or whatever.
I think that,
but it does.
Populist, just real quick. I think populist rhetoric is poison and it is harming us.
Agreed. In the media. Not from politicians. I don't think politicians are gonna be caring or dramatically changing the perception of the Democratic Party in vulnerable districts. I just don't think it's gonna happen. But that's my perspective.
I disagree. Bishop, go.
Yeah. I mean, I actually agree with Hutch, and this is sort of the foundation of my argument. And I've said it a couple times, and I feel like this is sort of the disagreement here. Is that, like, for example, Hutch was describing the difficulties of the Biden administration with immigration, and I appreciate the library of timestamps that Destiny has about the evolution of that stuff in Congress. But from my perspective, when I think about Biden and the immigration, I'm thinking about the standoffs between the Texas National Guard and the DHS trying to let people across the border and things of that nature that got really heavily put on Biden. And so I do think that you need candidates that are facing those issues to have the freedom to be able to say, on these issues, on these specific issues, me as an individual or me as a competitive candidate is going to diverge from Biden or the typical Democratic Party. But I think that it's important to differentiate it, that the chasm is on the issues and not on the community, not on the party, not on the D, because that is how we get the big tent. We get the big tent by saying Southern Democrats are just built different. You just have to accept it. You just have to accept that blue dog Democrats, they're going to believe things that people in New England don't. And that's what a Democrat is, and that's what a blue dog Democrat is, and that's what a moderate Democrat is, and that's what a Manchin Democrat is.
A question for you, Bishop, actually, because I'm very curious. Do you think that there's what would you consider necessary beliefs to be a Democrat, if any? Is there a necessary policy position, belief system, value that you have to hold, or you're just not let into the tent?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that fundamentally you need to believe in the core principles of liberalism, and that needs to be. I mean, frankly, I think that our political leadership should be able to explain this on a political science level, not necessarily in their campaign speech, but like they should at least
give us
understand
like the top three then.
I mean, I would say, gosh, I wish I had notes in front of me for like the principles. But
I would just say you need to be more aligned than not. I don't know if there's like a particular North Star policy for me at this point. Maybe if I thought about it,
no core principle that you would point to, say you kind of got to believe in this.
Well, I mean, I would say to define it all, I'd say Lockean liberalism would really be where you need to be a Democrat. And I think where I would actually differ from Hutch, where you need to be more aligned than not, is I think one of the biggest problems in the world that the Democrats have right now is trying to understand the difference between a liberal Democrat and a progressive Democrat. And I believe the reason why it's so difficult to understand the differences in these two is because they are way more aligned than not. They are very closely aligned. But some of it doesn't line up, and some of it leads to pretty disastrous differences. And we're still trying to figure that out. And the short answer to why there is that difference is because there's an underlying political, philosophical difference. And that's why you have progressive Democrats that are like, I don't agree with Hassan Piker, but I don't hate him. And then you have liberal Democrats that are like, I think Hassan Piker is the devil. And so that's how you wind up with those two things, even though the progressive Democrat and the liberal Democrat agree on like 99% of the issues at the time.
Is Hassan net positive even among Democrats in the polling?
Fuck no.
I don't think he is.
Could be wrong. He's 77% unknown, minus 10% likability.
Yeah, but there was like a breakdown with like specific demographics in a poll just like a week
I don't know
and a
the
half ago.
demographic breakdown.
I know that the demographic breakdown is that the largest group of people that like him are people who live with their parents.
I remember that. He fucking dominated with them.
Why
Yes.
would you ask that on a poll?
And then parents, it was the craziest thing ever in that poll. And then among parents who had children at home, he pulled at he had 0% favor. So like the kids that are watching his streams that live at home with their parents, it's like they fucking love him, and then the parents fucking hate him. It's amazing. Yeah.
I've never heard of a poll that's like, how do you feel about this person and do you live with your parents?
Yeah. Wow.
A weird question to ask, but they did. But I guess that's one of the problems I think that the Democratic Party has is when you ask them, okay, what does it mean to be a Democrat? What does that mean? Right? Like that's a question that is very, very hard to get an actual answer to from people. And I've asked this question a few times in interviews and in panels I've done and things like that. It's really hard. I'm curious your answer, Destiny. Like Hutch here says, well, you just have to be more aligned than not, like 51% aligned, I guess. We'll do it. And Mr. Bishop was Lockean liberals. Do you have an answer for us, Destiny? I'm curious.
For what, like on a national level?
What does it mean? What does it mean to be a Democrat? What, if any, core principles do you need to hold to consider yourself a Democrat or to be considered a Democrat?
I mean, it's going to be hyper contextual in time. Do you mean to vote Democrat, or do you mean like to closely align?
No, to be a Democrat, not just to vote for us, but to be one.
I don't know. It's probably some general broad principles of like social democracy. So you roughly believe that Americans need some assistance from government redistribution on the economic side to create more opportunities for people to go to school, get jobs, or whatever else. And then all the basic like classical liberal stuff. But I mean, that would have been the old like distinction between a Democrat and a Republican, but right now we have a Republican Party that's just absolutely fucking insane. So I don't know. It's hard to define a single party without like an opposition party. But I guess
I think part of the issue here, Whick, is with a two-party system, you have to consolidate in a way that is a bit unnatural. So like if you go to European countries that have anywhere between like 5 and 15 political parties, you have these different identities that get to have the different groups that get to have their own political identity. And so it becomes a lot harder to come up with like an all-encompassing sort of category or criteria for what it means to be a Democrat in a party with like, 100 million people or something, or 80 million people, however many registered Democrats there are.
Traditionally, we would define ourselves in opposition to the Republican Party. Like there's going to be issues that we have like tension between. So like if you go back like 10 years to like the neocons, we would define ourselves as people that are a bit more dovish when it comes to foreign policy, maybe more diplomacy first versus just bombing people going to wars. Ideally, we'd be in favor of greater social welfare, more redistributive tax policy, more public funding for things like schools or whatever. Like these would be in opposition to the Republicans that are on the other side of that. But right now, I think being a Democrat is just, it's a 95 or higher IQ test or a morality test. And if you're not in that camp, then you're a fucking demon or retarded, in my opinion.
Being
anti-Trump. This is also go ahead.
Opposition to Trump is like a big part of the Democratic Party brand right now.
Kind of, yeah.
Sure, but that's a terrible. That's a terrible political movement and political idea.
That's a terrible idea.
You resolve that.
If I'm a Marxist-Leninist,
look, I will take
crazy.
anyone's vote. Like I don't care who you are, what you believe, what you identify as. I don't care if you want to vote for the same person I do. I will take your vote. Like that, I don't think is in contestation here, right? We're not contesting that. But when I do think we need a stricter guideline than on what it means to be a Democrat, then we don't like Trump. I think it just needs to be more than that.
No,
what does it mean to be like? What does it mean to be?
It doesn't changing fundamentally in a way that's going to be disastrous.
No, right now, what it means to be a Democrat is probably going to have a lot of overlap between, I would hope, most moral people and like what it means to be an American. Like, if we don't have an opposition party, how the fuck do you even define what a Democrat is? Like in my mind, the Republican Party is not a real serious political party in the United States right now. So I don't know. I don't know how I would define the Democratic Party in a way that separates it from just like what I think an average American ought to be, and then without an opposition party to define ourselves against. I just don't know what you would. I don't even know what you would say to that.
It's the inevitable outcome of being the opposition party. Like, how did the Republican Party define themselves when Obama was president, being anti-Obama? Like, the party is going to have a better identity once we nominate a president
but the Republican
candidate,
Party,
and then they win.
At least before Trump, the Republican Party had a through line. Yes, they did do a lot of anti-Obama stuff, and they were kind of seen as the opposition party in a lot of ways, but it meant more to be a Republican back in 2000 or 1990 than it does than just I'm against the Democrats. And
At the
vice
state
versa,
and
Yeah, but
local
same
it meant
thing.
level.
more to
Well,
be a Democrat than just I'm against Republicans.
yeah, it did,
right?
but that's because we had opposition parties, right? You have your gay, liberal, coastal elites. Your city people tended to be more Democrat. Your rural people tended to be more Republican. Your techie people tended to be more Democrat. Like, yeah, we could draw all of these lines, but that's because we had an opposition party. But I mean, now, I don't know what the tech bros are conservative demons. I don't know how you would. I mean, you tell us, how would you define Democrat in a way that's like unique from just, I guess, what you would want like an average American, I guess, to be right now.
Sure.
Or
I
how
think-
would you establish an identity?
how would I establish? Well, these are different questions, right? So I'll answer Destiny's question first. What do I consider someone, or what the Democratic Party should be, right? Are people who believe in free and fair elections, people who believe in
Hold on, stop.
being
I said that's different from an average American. So our opposition party should not believe in free and fair elections?
Does the average American believe? The average American is looking towards populism, which I don't know if they believe in free.
Yeah,
and
but
fair
even in
elections,
their mind,
frankly.
it's still
There's
going to
a
be
lot
free
of
and fair
election
elections.
denial.
They're not thinking that like the elections
Okay,
are going to
I'm-
be rigged.
Sure.
The polls are pretty serious. Like, there's a pretty substantial amount of Americans that don't believe the polls. I mean, think about all the Trump. There's like 6% of Trump voters believe that Trump didn't legitimately win the election. I mean,
Well, wait, that's different
it-
than saying, do you believe that we should have free and fair elections? That's what I thought.
There is a substantial portion of the American populace who are looking for a strong man. This is a real and growing problem in
sure.
America, right? And I think that that is just one of the conditions. There are others, right? But it's a box that unfortunately we have to ask, right? Do you actually believe in free and fair elections, or would you steal one if you could? I think that is a fair question that we have to ask people nowadays.
I don't think most of them believe that they're stealing the election, though. I think they believe that they do have the popular support on their side. Like, for the average voter, at least. Like, the average January 6th Republican was not thinking, like, fuck, Trump's got to steal the election with these electoral votes. They were thinking that the elections had been stolen from them via some huge rigged mail-in ballot scheme, and that Trump was, like, trying to show that, actually, the American population really did vote for Trump, in the majority.
I don't know if that's true. I think that a lot of them are post hoc rationalizing, and they're living with a cognitive dissonance that is causing a lot of anxiety within a lot of them. But a lot of them just don't fucking care. They're psychopaths. They just don't.
The psychopaths are going to be 1 or 2%. I think the average of them are, for all their fucking faults, I love them to death, are going to be like my parents who watch stupid, retarded shit on Facebook, and they were in the Air Force and they served their country and they love this place, and they think that the dirty Democrats stole the election with mail-in ballots because of biolabs in Ukraine and Kamala Harris and the Commie News Network and everything else. Unfortunately, as fucking stupid as it is, I think that's more the average MAGA person than the sociopaths like Ryan Mullally or whatever other people should be fucking shipped out of this country in helicopters over the ocean.
My dad and your parents would get along swimmingly. But Whick, I think right now, tactically in the short term, is actually the best play for Democrats to be defined as opposition to Donald Trump. While their brand is really bad, Donald Trump is historically unpopular, and then they should ramp that up when we actually get the majorities.
Yeah, but
And,
that's the disagreement we're having here, right? Is yes, I think short term, tactically, it probably will work. Like, I don't think. Look, I think I could win an election in this environment. Okay, right? Like, I think that anyone who doesn't have an R next to their name will probably do much better in this political environment than they otherwise would. But the problem becomes, like, what comes next? What comes after? And
What
I'm
happens when
worried that-
Rubio's the frickin' nominee and the Democrats built an entire identity off of "We are not Trump"?
he gets
Rubio
fucking smoked.
comes out
He gets
swinging,
smoked.
saying that he believes that in the American dream, where a Latino can come to the United States of America and accomplish
He's gonna have
anything.
he's gonna have the
I
same
mean-
problems that Kamala did, inheriting the baggage from the administration
He
that
will.
she served in.
will.
And this is a historically unpopular president. I don't want to get too complacent, but Rubio's not going to have an easy job against literally any candidate
like I
right
said,
now.
it's
The
also-
AOC
it's
would beat
also-
Rubio right now.
I think it's also, as much as I hate to say this, and as much as I want Democrats to rule forever for the rest of my lifetime, when you criticize the opposition and then they end up changing in order to avoid your criticisms, in our minds, we see that as like a snaky, sneaky, whatever, fuck these guys things. But we take a step back, it is significantly better. Rubio, for as much as I love my fellow Cuban American, is a significant improvement from Donald Trump. Holy
sure.
fuck.
For
So,
sure.
He is.
yeah.
Yes, he is.
Hugely, yeah. Absolutely, and that's I don't think that we should be building our entire identity off of being we're not Trump. I think that there are some Democratic politicians that do, and I think that there are plenty of politicians, Democratic politicians that don't, and I think that the ones that don't are the ones that are going to have the most success long term. It's like what coercion can win in a moment, but it loses for centuries. So I really am worried about. I think that's a great question, Wick. It's just like sort of the ambivalence about like, well, what is a Democrat versus what is a Republican? But I think the why
we need a
people.
better answer.
No, no,
That's
but
all
we
I got.
have, we have,
Yeah,
but we have
yeah,
a lot of through lines right now. We have a lot
yeah,
of through lines right
we
now with
do.
all the campaigns that are going. They're focusing on affordability, corruption,
Yeah,
and anti-Iran war.
yeah,
That's what's defining the party right
and
now.
that's the rule of law. I think the rule of law is a huge one, and when you look at what's going on with this, I mean, frankly, the Trump administration and they're skirting around the rule of law and the IRS and all of that jazz. And this is why it's kind of a cheesy answer for an audience to say, "Oh yes, this political philosophy defines what a Democrat is." But I think it's ordered liberty. I think it's social democracy, and I think it's rule of law and equality under the law is the really defining things that make somebody a Democrat.
Talk to Destiny about the rule of law. He's got some ideas.
Um, yeah, and that's the concern. It's the main question. I think the main disagreement between you and I, Hutch, is the long term versus short term thinking. And I understand how important the short term is, right? You can't live long term if you can't survive the short term, right? Like if we get blown out in the short term, it doesn't matter what happens long term because we are suffering now and people need help now. And we have a Supreme Court picks coming up soonish, right? That we will need to fill now. But I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice everything and anything, or as much as you are, I should say, to be a little more fair about it, in order to secure these short-term gains, because I believe that they'll be at the expense of the long-term health of not only our party, but the nation as a whole. And we are going down a path that I do not want to go down with regards to populism. And to Destiny's point, the media environment does need to be, we need to do something. I don't know what, right? But it needs to happen. But we can, even in a bad environment, take actions or avoid taking actions that will help us and make it more likely that we can be successful, not just now, but in the long term. That's just the disagreement we're having.
Listen, I agree with you 1,000,000%, but there are things where the answer is like, it's like blaringly obvious where the huge problems are right now. Like you've got a guy who is eating no protein, goes to the gym, and sleeps like 8 hours a night, and you're saying like, what if he slept 10 hours a night? What if he slept 12 hours a night? What if he slept 18 hours a night? When the reality is he's just not eating enough, right? You have this glaringly huge issue, and right now it is the media, and it is 99% of the problem. And trying to say that some Democrats just need to figure out a way to message better if they're an exposed district who is at risk of losing a race, when the media apparatus on the right can cover for literally everything. You have a media apparatus. Is Tallarico? I don't actually know. Is Tallarico gay?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
no, he's engaged.
All right, I don't even know. Okay, I don't even know. But the Republicans are painted that way. They're like openly, like I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
like
they're doing AI videos.
I'm pretty
and all
sure
sorts of-
isn't
They called him trans, didn't they?
isn't Lindsey
Yeah.
Graham gay? Like probably.
Well,
Like
Probably.
yeah, almost
I don't
certainly,
know, I've
right?
seen some
But
pictures.
like we don't talk about it because why? Because nobody in the media talks about that. But Tallarico's getting hit for fucking soy. I don't even know what the fuck they're targeting him on. Or like what happened to we're talking about Biden was weak on the border and Trump was going on the border. Where's the wall? Did that ever get finished? I don't know. Mexico certainly didn't fucking pay for it. And there were 30 million illegal immigrants supposedly that snuck in over Biden's term, and we've deported maybe 2 million of them. Like the media is winning on all of these points, and it is the media that is doing the heavy lifting on 99% of the messaging here. It's not the Republican politicians. Look at these. For all the credit that I give some of them having dropped out, Marjorie Taylor Greene was Trump's strongest warrior, and now that she's out of the camp, her messaging carries as far as the Young Turks will carry it, right? She's just not as influential anymore because the media establishment on the right has now tossed her out. So, like, looking to these politicians to be the one to create the brand is always going to be a fool's errand when the media is like 99% of the issue right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, the disagreement we have here, Destiny, is while I agree with you 100% 100% that the media is the main problem. Look, I live by the philosophy when there's little you can do what little you can. And a candidate, however talented, is very, very unlikely to be able to fix our media environment. But what they can control, what they can do is work on their messaging and work on what they can do. And I understand it might not be enough to solve all the problems in the world,
but the most
they can at
important thing,
least do
I
as
agree.
little harm as possible.
I agree. You're asking though, what is the most important thing that a person running for office can do?
The most important thing,
have a winning unifying
raise a lot of
message.
money.
No, fuck all that. No, it's to win the office. That is their job at the end of the day. Media and messaging is secondary to that. They have to win office. That's the most of all of the foundation of politics in a democracy. Winning office is the most important thing, because without that, nothing else matters.
Agree that they should not and they cannot and should not win at all costs.
At all costs, no. But if
Exactly.
a family is struggling to pay their bills, the answer is not to have your 14-year-old drop out of high school to start working at McDonald's, because everything is just getting fucked up at that point, even further down the line. We need to fill seats in Congress. That is the most important thing that matters right now. Our left messaging apparatus is in shambles and it sucks shit like fucking horribly. We are never going to have that fixed by vulnerable Dems potentially losing seats in a fool's errand to repair a media apparatus while fighting against Fox News. It's not even.
It's hard to know how to get into like solutions when you talk about the media stuff. Like, do you have any ideas in terms of how to address that? It just seems like
You either mobilize the military and you destroy Fox News headquarters, you deport Murdoch and Elon Musk, and you bulldoze the X fucking server farm just to send a message.
I'm not sure if he's kidding or not.
I'm talking about saving our country, okay? Or on the lib left part, you tell people, hey, you motherfuckers need to message positively for the Democratic Party, and you need to understand everybody has the rules that they play with, okay? And then when it comes to the Democrats, everybody comes in and then they attack us over the head with our own rules. And for some reason, I don't know how to communicate this because Americans are truly fucking retarded and lost on this. Americans have this thing fucked into their skulls about freedom of speech and all this shit, and it's the most important thing in the world, and it's virtuous to criticize your own side, but only the Democrats do it. And somebody has to communicate. I don't know if it's the CEOs of these companies. Barry Weiss, she's got to go to Canada or Mexico or to Iran. She's got to be fucking ejected from this country. But the lib-left messaging apparatus has to understand that if you're going to bring a politician on, go look at the interview that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz did on CNN. If you want to understand the issues in this country, go look at the interview that Kamala Harris and Walz gave on CNN when they were running for office, and then go look at the very first interview that Donald Trump gave to the, I don't know if she's Hispanic or Indian, the one woman on, it's either ABC or NBC, and look at the difference where when a lib is asked questions on a lib platform, it's, you said this. And I know you answered this. Here's a follow-up. And then here's another quote from you. And are you sure about this? It's a brutal interview. And then Trump is like, yes, Master Trump, what do you think about this? Oh, he just told 20 lies. I'm not going to. Okay, and then what about this, Trump? Oh, 20 more lies. Okay, and what about this, Trump? Until that gets fixed, everything else is completely fucked. And, we can nibble around the edges for everything else, but I think you're better off, honest to God, organizing mass harassment campaigns to go stay outside the homes of, like, CNN execs until they realize that their messaging is destroying the country. I know that sounds radical. I'm sorry, but, like, that's where I'm at.
No, I agree. I agree that fundamentally, if we're going to have a change, we are going to have to have a massive overhaul of the lib-left media space. I don't think we're going to be able to do that by going to the current organizers of that mass media space and saying, hey, please do it differently or we're going to stake out your house. I think we're going to have to do it by simply galvanizing lib-left media. And I think, and by the way, everybody's tired of it. This isn't like a minority of people feel this way. So I do think that there's the motivation to be there, but it's just going to take programs and organization and intentionality. But I do think of that one.
Just real quick on that. I don't mean to. Well, I am interrupting, but like this is part of the problem that again, bringing this back, like these arsonists are. Look at when Chorus. Look at Chorus, right? Tried to put together a media group that would be positive towards democratic messaging, liberal messaging, and push that shit. It got attacked, not from the right, but from the left, right? Like it obviously was there. There are arsonists that are within our ranks that are trying to burn any improvement.
Listen, this is absolutely true. This is absolutely true. And fuck them and fuck all of them. But you know what? what is this stupid fucking quotes we used to jerk ourselves off with the time? What the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for great men to remain neutral in times of crisis or whatever. Yeah. Where the fuck was everybody else on the chorus shit? I'm not calling out you guys, but I mean, like mainstream media. Where the fuck was anybody defending them? Nowhere, bro. You can have people defending. You can have people attack Jack Posobiec, and you will get fucking the Republican parts of the establishment coming up to defend this guy, who's literally a subhuman. And people will. I think he has a book called Subhumans, talking about like fucking Democrats. It's crazy, or Unhuman. I think is what it's called. Like there is. That doesn't exist on the center left. If Biden is trying to tell a story about anything, then the entire center left have their cum receptacles out to jerk off about how great they are to hold him to account for it. And then on the right, they're like, how could we sell this fucking lie? And they hate it. They even know it's a lie. Look at all the leaked messages over the Dominion thing where Tucker Carlson is literally talking about Sidney Powell. We caught this fucking bitch lying. I think that's a verbatim quote. This fucking bitch lied to me on my platform. And they're still airing it and lying for her. You can't compete against that. And the politicians absolutely can't compete against that.
Well, I mean, the way that you compete against that is just by drowning it out with more different voices and utilizing better media strategies. I mean,
the media strategy, where, how? Give me I need an actionable thing, because your media strategy
an actionable thing.
Like where? What do you do? Where do you go? Sorry, I'm not.
An actionable search. No, yeah, no. I mean, you're rightly fired up about this, and frankly, you know, a lot of your arguments have sort of led me into how I feel about this space and how I am trying to position myself in this space. I think that the winning media strategy is for people that are subscribing to this liberal ideology to organize and to have organized media campaigns and organized political media campaigns. I think that they should be emulating successful media campaigns that we're seeing in other political ideologies. I mean, I think
those are coordinated, but the coordination happens with the mainstream media platforms. They're doing it. They're doing it.
But the reason why they do it, the reason why the mainstream media organizations, why they collaborate with people on the right wing, is because it works for them. And the reason why that the liberal media campaigns don't coordinate is because right now that's what works for them. It's like when
but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Algorithm. It's because they've decided they're going to be, because everybody over there is mind fucked, and I'm going to assume most of them are not doing it in bad faith, but it's because they're mind fucked into thinking there's some fucking virtue in it. We raised, I'm not trying to drag it up, but like, okay, we raised like $260,000 in a single day in an online fundraiser for my little DGG thing, which is like a not super far left, which I think is a kind of a cool thing. I think that's a pretty crazy thing in terms of like an actual absolute dollar value amount of money raised. I have had one mainstream media reporter reach out to me for a relevant story in the past 6 months. Can you guess what story that was?
Yeah. I bet it's something not related to the fundraising.
It's the lady who did the story on Hassan Piker is in my email reaching out to me to get comments from me to build that story. That's the difference right now in our media environment. Is the right will do anything they can to launder stories to support their party and their candidates, and then the lib left is trying to find the final piece of the Biden senility crisis to talk even more about how good they are. They'll hold their own accountable. That you can't win in that environment. No amount of Plattner messaging or anybody else is gonna move the needle much when all of your media fucking hates you. And by you, I mean like the lib left media is like adversarial to the Democratic establishment.
Yeah,
but I mean, again, I 100% agree with all of this. The problem is, I think that you aren't taking into account, and one of the problems that the reason we have gotten here, and the reason people think this is virtuous, and the reason why Hutch thinks it's perhaps a virtue for candidates to throw Democrats under the bus in certain instances, is all related to the same thing, right? That we aren't fucking standing our guys. We aren't standing there. Yeah, putting our flag on the hill and saying, yeah, I'm a fucking Democrat. I'm fucking proud of being a Democrat. And yeah, we're the best party on the fucking, in this fucking country right now. And fuck you if you criticize us.
But the standing has to be from the media.
We need that energy
I don't expect somebody from an ultra blue area to stand Plattner. And I don't expect Plattner to stand the party, but I expect the media wing to stand the party. That's what has to happen for it to work. It can't be the candidates. You're on a national. The Democratic Party is a national brand. Races are run at the local level. Even senatorial races are ran at the local level. It's the state. The state of Maine. The average voter there is not the same type of person as the average American citizen.
That's true, but again, I think that races are nationalized in a way that they weren't before, and these things have ripple effects. As I
I mean,
said,
yeah,
if I'm
I gotta
wrong,
say,
but they're going to run against Plattner in Alaska. They're going to
I,
run against Plattner in Texas.
yeah.
They're going to run against Plattner
No,
in
they're
all these
not.
other
Nah,
races.
we'll see.
I mean, I agree with you, Destiny, with your criticisms of the media. I think it's the biggest problem that we're facing right now. I'm very eager to see what the lib left is going to do, if they're going to evolve, if they're not going to evolve. I personally am going to be trying to play as much of a role as I can in that. But as far as this conversations go, beyond that problem that does exist, I do think that we need to hold political leaders accountable for the things that they say in politics. I do think that when political leaders say things that are outlandish in politics, they can be held accountable for it. For example, that candidate out of Texas that said that she was going to send Zionist people into FEMA camps, and that absolutely crucified her campaign. I do think it's possible for political candidates to say things that are important, and I also think that it's actually really important that we hold them accountable for what they say, and we hold them accountable for their messaging. I do believe that your percentage thing is right. Is that, like, maybe what a political candidate says is 2% on the meter, and then the way that the political media clips it is the other 98%. I could very much see that being the percentage breakdown. But as far as the conversations on our political leaders go, we need to be demanding more from the people that are leading us. We need to be demanding more from the people that we are putting in positions of power. And we need to be calling out weak leadership when we have it. We need to be willing to sit here and say, hey, you in the elected office, you're fucking up. You ruined this for all of us. And, like, you need to change your policies. These are unpopular policies. And you keep on shoving them down our throat for some fucking reason. We have all of our conspiracies for why you're pushing these unpopular policies. We have all of our conspiracies for why you're pushing this. But it doesn't have to be the be-all, end-all. We as Democrats can be a big party, a big tent party, and we can adopt policies. I think that people have the right to govern themselves. And if people in one part of the country prefer some policies and people on the other side of the country prefer different policies, they should be able to govern themselves. And that should be able to be under the Democratic Party, and not this weird fascist thing where everybody is a sycophant and saying, sir, yes, sir, Trump, I'll suck your dick for $20.
Look,
that's
MAGA,
what we're
yeah,
dealing with.
MAGA and the far left, MAGA and Hassan specifically, operate almost one-to-one. You can't criticize Hassan. No one criticizes Hassan in their camp. If you criticize Hassan in their camp, you get pushed out. Like, they are however you fucking say that word. You know what I mean.
Sycophants.
Sycophants for Hassan.
Psychophants.
Like, I can see him in my chat right now. I mentioned Hassan, and they're there like lightning, ready to defend their daddy, right? Just gobbling his
media people, though. Media people. Mamdani disavowed, right? Mamdani disavowed. Other people had a distance. Media people. You're talking about there's a media issue. I love you.
I understand, but it's a both issue, and I understand one is way more important than the other, and I agree with you, but that doesn't absolve even if it's 91% on one side and 9% on the other side, let 9% still matters, and it could still, again, elections are won in this country by 1-2%.
It's not a matter of what it's the difference between necessary and sufficient. It's not a matter of what matters. If you're really thirsty and I ask you what's more important, the glass or the water, I mean, you have to have the glass to put the water in. It doesn't matter what the water does absent the glass being there, unless it's going to lick the ground, right? It doesn't matter what the politicians say or do if there's no media apparatus there to accelerate it into the public consciousness, like the Republicans have. And especially not if you're going to lose an election trying to do that. It's just not their job, and they're not going to be successful at it anyway.
Will the election trying to do that? I think that's a lie. I think that's what's feeding these things is the idea that if you run as a proud Democrat, you will more likely lose your election. I don't believe that.
Well, in the cases where it's obvious where being a pro-Democrat would win the election, what do you think me and Hutch would say?
See, but that's a problem. None of us have a crystal ball that can say 100% what's going to happen. We have to make inferences. And one of the inferences that I am making, or that I see being made, I should say, by Hutch, is that there are certain districts where Democrats just can't win.
And we don't even know if
toss the people under the bus. And
we don't even know if Graham Plattner's strategy is going to work for him.
But where was the Democratic opposition?
I mean, do you think that James Salarico would be leading in the polls versus Paxton if he was in Texas saying the Democratic Party is the best party in the world and we're just great?
I mean,
He
I've
would.
said him in particular. I think that he's the way that he is. I think the way that he is handling it is exactly the best possible way you could handle it. And I think that the way he's handling it is, number one, a little bit different from how I happen to interpret your tweet. And I think more importantly, it's different from how we're seeing some other people handle it in competitive districts and in non-competitive districts.
Look, you don't have to like agree with every single thing that the Democratic Party
Yeah,
leadership does. That's not what we're
absolutely.
asking here. And frankly, that's a straw man. What we're saying is,
Well, I mean,
do it.
that
Done it.
if that's what you're saying, then that necessarily means voicing your, disagreements, whatever they
You
may
think
be.
throwing people under the bus is the same as voicing a disagreement on a
So
policy?
that's why I tried to clarify at the beginning, like, maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic there, but like some tactical distance sometimes in some districts and some races on some issues, yeah, maybe be more aggressive about it and just straight up say you think Biden was bad on this or the party was bad on that.
It's also, again, messaging is important. And if you want to, you can stress Democratic wins, what Democrats are doing well that is
Yeah, you
popular
should
in your
do you should
district,
do
that
both.
is
You should do
popular
both.
in your
You
area.
should do both. I'm not
I
saying you
think
should
that's
just yeah.
go ahead.
I think we've done a really good job at disagreeing for an hour and 43 minutes on something we all agree on, actually.
We don't. Okay. The different. I know this is the what is
Yeah.
what is that name? The distinction of small differences or the prejudice of small. I don't know the exact saying, but when there's very little daylight, but it's still very important. The little bit that we disagree on. I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
let
You
me
have some
read some
super
of these.
chats to get to?
Yes.
Go.
Let me read. I just got one for $100. So yay. I guess I'll read that one first. $100 from Killer64US. Thank you for the $100. To say, glad we're getting our 1984-esque multi-hour of hate on the Democrats again. We need more conversations like these. Really energizes the base. Dude in the top left is so embarrassed to be talking about the Democratic Party, he doesn't dare show his whole face. I don't know if that's why he's covering his face, but fair
Okay.
enough. $2 from Meta42 TMR. The handsome baldy owes Mike $1,450. $10 from Radell. I'm fully behind criticizing Dems for their faults and separating your platform from those faults. However, you should always note one side is worse and never use lies to denigrate the party for approval. Do you disagree with that?
I think for this, I think we should
for
have
the most
come.
part.
Wick, this is your fault. I think you should have come with like
It'll
5 or 10 like sample messages, and I think that of the 4 people here, I feel like we would probably agree on like 80% of it. I feel like the positions that we have right now have the illusion of being further apart than they actually are.
You fucked up, Wick, is what he's saying.
Always. You know what? This is another one. I am the most Democratic here because I'm the one catching the blame. Okay. It's always throw Wick under the bus. Okay. Just like you advocate for the Democrats, just throw all the Democrats under the bus.
True.
And I understand.
It's all your fault, Wick.
As Biden's strongest soldier, I get it. I will take that mantle. I will take the blame for you. $10 from Trevika. Why are we comparing what Dems could have done who follow road signs and lights when Republicans and MAGA push full pedal down on the car till it crashes into a wall and ask Dems to fix the car afterwards? Tyler
You
Karen.
want to win elections? That's really what this is about.
Yeah, well, this is a strategy meeting, gang. $20 from Tyler Karen. Bishop, the damage came from when we were in office, end quote. So do you think we shouldn't elect another Obama because he wore a tan suit? Don't you think the scandal goalpost will be moved like it has been for the past 20 years?
To answer your question directly, I don't think any American that isn't a political pundit gives a flying fuck about the tan suit. And frankly, during the period of time, I don't think anybody gave a fuck about the tan suit. And frankly, if you want to talk about ridiculous scandals, we can talk about the CNN articles that were talking about Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream while everybody else gets 1. The media, don't get me wrong, I want to be crystal clear. The conservative media is significantly more hyped about that kind of scandalizing and bullshit and dragging Hillary in the fucking emails and so on and so forth. I get it. I'm not drawing. They're not equivalent. But what I do want to say is, yeah, I think that it's unpopular policies that have made Democrats unpopular. I think it's democratic failures in certain areas, such as the border, that have led to their lack of popularity in those communities. And I think that what you can do is you can say this policy is bad without the Democratic Party being bad, because if the Democratic Party is bad, then in this two-party system, that means the Republican Party is good. And the Democratic Party is too good on too many things to throw the entire party under the bus just because they've got a couple of policies that are unpopular. And frankly, I think that the thing that we demand is that the Democratic Party takes the policies that are successful and moves them forward, and takes the policies that are unsuccessful and unpopular and cuts them out. And that's how you get a good system. That's my position.
Seems good to me. Mackie Hilden for $10. I think rebuilding the brand responsibility is 30% good policy, 10% Democratic rhetoric, and 60% left-wing media. What is the breakdown from each participant?
There's a missing component there, which is like the leadership, like the president. Like when you have an incumbent party that has the presidency, I think that's a big part of it. And so I don't know how to answer that question really.
That's fair. Trib1 for $10. This is for Tiny and Boldy. I think if we had a way to explain our W's better, it'd be more beneficial in the long run. I understand populism's easy to message on, but there's got to be a way. Do y'all think it's possible?
Trump's campaign colluded with Russia. Okay, that's just we know that to be a fact. The Charlottesville thing, Trump was saying Nazis were good people. Like these are just facts that are true that our media was scared away from because the Republicans countersignal on it so much. If any of these things were relevant to the Democrats, then we would believe the exact opposite. I just cannot stress enough how little political leadership even can do anything when the media is so strong on these things. Like we can't even talk about stuff related to Russia anymore. Even the left media is traumatized by it. Like if you don't, I just don't know how you could ever overcome that environment. I just don't see how that's possible. Like even when people, not to take away from anybody saying anything here, okay, but even when people say, well, isn't Trump like kind of losing now? Like how many layers of hell have we had to sink through to get to a point to where maybe kind of sort of
yeah, he's losing a war, and he's like kind of losing.
Well,
I'm a big fuck the voters guy. So, like a lot of the problems that we face go beyond the media and politicians. It's just
do you have
sad
the
fact is that a lot of American people,
yeah,
a lot of Americans, a majority of Americans heard Trump's
pitch
pitch and preferred him, and so
Yeah.
that's a whole other angle to this.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, please finish.
No, that's it.
Okay. $5 from my listening library. Mom Donnie doing videos explaining his bills is awesome. I'm in a Republican area. People here feel that politicians are untouchable and do not communicate. Thank you for $5.
I know I come off as a one-note record here. I don't give a fuck. Listen, I think Mamdani's done a great job. The biggest reason why Mamdani is successful is because he is a blue mayor in New York City. So Republicans don't talk about him, and the tankies won't attack him because they want to claim him as their own. So Mamdani is able to go out and he does a really good job at all of his advertising. I'm not going to deny this, okay? But I'm sorry, if you think that Mamdani's done a phenomenal job being the mayor of New York City, he's transformed into 6 months, you're retarded. Okay, nothing significantly has changed in New York City, okay? He's only been mayor for 6 months. He hasn't even had the opportunity to make massive significant changes in New York City. The biggest reason why he has the reputation is because the tankies don't touch him, and because Republicans are never going to have a fucking mayor in New York City, so he can do all the messaging that he wants on his own, free of anybody trying to fuck with him.
Yeah, but doesn't that like a certain viewer would hear that and think, well, doesn't that just mean we should go towards tanky policies so that they don't touch us anymore and we solve this media environment that you talk about? And that cannot be the answer. I think that's a fail state.
How is that the answer? No, the answer is to build your own left media apparatus. That's like saying we've got all these people, committing the crime of murder over and over again. How do we overcome it? Well, let's just legalize murder. Well, no, unless you want to beat tankies, no. But I'm just saying that all the criticism needs to go towards having like a mainstream media platform. I love alternative media, but mainstream media is still really important where Democrats can go on and get their message out and have like a good time. And like here, I pray for a world where Democratic politicians can go on to left-wing platforms and be treated as well as fucking Vance was treated on the fucking View. Okay, Jesus fucking Christ. That's all I ask for. Holy shit.
Insane.
They were tougher on him than 90% of the fucking interviews for any administration member throughout this term.
Barely. Yeah. If that's a tough interview, then I can bench
a low
3
bar.
plate, okay? There were no follow-ups. He was allowed to lie with impunity on every single fucking answer, okay? Whoopi Goldberg was either asleep or stroked out for like 20 minutes of it. And usually in the limited viewings of The View, she's like the most vocal kind of like super lived person. I go back and listen to Vance's answers. It was like a fucking lie on almost everything. He got to have a clean record. Almost nothing got really challenged or followed up on. Like, I don't know. I think it was a very easy.
It's a low bar. It's a low bar.
Well, they ain't going on people who can actually hold their feet to the fire. They just won't go on their shows.
True.
They just refuse.
This
So
is where
it's
I will agree with Whick that there is some things that the political leadership can do. So, for instance, I think maybe one of the reasons why Trump has had an easier time in the media is because he, for instance, when he was coming back into office, he was tweeting out or on Truth Social saying things like he would put Mark Zuckerberg in jail for life because of unfair treatment on Facebook, and then he sued every single fucking media company that banned an account of his. Maybe the next lib president needs to do that. Maybe Gavin Newsom needs to start making death threats or whatever.
That is not no.
Well, I'm just saying.
Pointing
when
this
we look
as
at
agreeing
as
with
much as I
Whick
want to
is
say,
not-
as much as I
No.
want to say, okay, they get friendly interviews, and I hate the media people. I mean, also Trump is kind of like threatening them with bullshit prosecutions and tweeting out shit about putting them in jail forever. So I don't know, maybe that's the way to get a more friendly media environment. Maybe it helps a little bit.
Well, so I try to ask this every chance I get in a Discord call with you, Destiny. So it's been a very big part of this topic is us exploring a little bit on the problems with the current lib left media. So what's your prescription? What are we doing? How are we fixing this? Because I'm a small bean. But I like to make a difference. I'd like to get involved. What do you think is the solution?
He already said you got to deport Rupert Murdoch and Barry Weiss.
I think there has to be, you either need legislation that mandates some type of media equality or whatever between both sides. I think that's less likely though than the other thing, which is you need to communicate your CNNs, your MSNB, MS Nows, whatever the fuck, need to understand like, hey guys, you need to like work with the Democratic Party more. And you need to figure that out. And if they're not, then you get like the president to say some shit where it's like, hey, I was looking at Anderson Cooper, and my FEC guy or FCC guy actually thinks that he's not funny and he's about to lose his program like Trump did with Stephen Colbert or like Trump did for a couple days with Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know, maybe we need to apply that kind of pressure until we have our own little media apparatus built up on the left.
To your point earlier, though, I think aggressive media training for like center left or, left to center libs that are not quite in the crystal ball Kyle Kulinski sphere. Like we need our preferred politicians going into those spaces, but not. They need to understand what they're walking into, and they need to have like a legitimate strategy for how to navigate those conversations.
I mean, like a little, but barely. We had the fucking main character in Saw was the head of DHS, was saying the most retarded shit constantly, and she was still surviving interviews because everybody was there to like fucking hype her up. Okay, like the guy who was the voice actor for the guy in home movies on Adult Swim. Anybody know who I'm talking about? He released a jazz album. Anybody know who I'm talking about?
The freaking Coach McGurk.
Yes. The
yeah.
voice actor for him, he doesn't know how to play piano, okay? But he released a jazz album, and he thought it'd be funny to hire a bunch of backing musicians while he does random fucking shit on piano, but the backing musicians are really good. The album is listenable. I'm not joking. You should look it up after the stream. It's listenable, but it's because he's got a really great backing ensemble. He doesn't know how to play piano. It's retarded, but it's a funny concept, and it is the current state of our media, okay? Donald Trump will ramble out the most insane fucking answers ever, and I do agree. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like, oh, none of this stuff matters. I'm just saying that, like, if I was Kamala Harris and I heard people compare me to Trump and say that they voted for Trump because they didn't feel like I had the qualifications, despite being a district attorney, despite being an attorney fucking general, despite being a senator, and despite being the vice president, and all Donald Trump has done is fucked a porn star and lied about it and inherited wealth from his daddy and bankrupt fucking casinos and then make a living on reality TV, I would kill myself. That's all I'm saying. If people were to tell me, like, you got to do better on the media thing. And I know you're not just saying that. God, the media part is so fucking important, though. That's all. Okay.
It is. $20 from Lockies. This debate sounds like Republican framing. If someone asks a candidate to bash, turn it on the questioner. Where was this energy with all the Republicans? I have my qualms with Democrats, but I'm focused on MAGA. That's also a great strategy. Yeah. Like, oh, you want to talk about Democrat Biden and the border? Why don't we talk about the what was it, $600 million bribe that Trump got from Qatar with the plane that they sent him? Why don't we talk about the crypto scams of Trump's, like, basically fleecing tons, billions of dollars.
The
for him and his
FBI
family.
director whose eyes look like he's trapped in a permanent LSD trip, who wrote 3 books calling Donald Trump the king. I mean, Jesus fuck.
You don't need to buy into the Democrats bad at all. You can simply go on offense every single time. And to Hutch's point, yes, media training would help you do that. Just say, oh, you want to talk about that? Well, we can talk about that after we talk about Trump, who's losing the war in Iran and getting people, our service members, killed for nothing. For nothing.
Did you guys see the news story about Kash Patel from yesterday?
The new one? Oh, you're gonna have to look. You got. There's a lot of stories.
It is one of the wildest stories that has come out of this administration. He set up $1 million taxpayer funded slush fund that he was giving to FBI agents that were basically acting as his own like personal weapon against perceived enemies. And they were giving them money in $8,000 per week because it was under some threshold where it didn't have to be reported
Israel.
or something like.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's one of the $7,000 Israel payments or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Is that really the wildest one? I don't know. I
crazy.
kind of like the story about Kash Patel getting so wasted that one night that the FBI had to bring the battering ram to his door when they were knocking on it to see if he was up.
My favorite Kash Patel story was him trying to go jet skiing when he was at the Five Eyes conference in the United Kingdom.
Jesus.
And instead of being at the Intel meetings, he was going jet skiing. That's my favorite Kash Patel story.
Jesus Christ.
The Trib one for $5 says, I'm talking about politicians for my last dono. There's got to be a way to construct messaging to where it's solidifying them W's and improving on them. I'd also take shitting on MAGA. We should do both. But look, again, do no harm is my advocacy here. You don't have to shit on Dems ever at all. I don't think it helps. Shit on MAGA if you want to shit on people. Anyway, $5 from my listening library. Whick, Republicans default to Christian values. They aren't lost, just hypocrites. They'll bury the bad parts and go back to acting like good Christians. Okay. Trib one for $5. The constant Dem bashing is just so toxic, in my opinion, and our policies have been amazing for the working class. We save people. It's so fucking annoying. True. $10 from Protest. Whick and Bishop, you need power only that only that matters. You guys are soy-jacking over Plattner. We need seats. That's all that matters. Also, the Dem brand was already down pre-Plattner, and these new candidates. Want to respond to that, Bishop? Or?
Yeah. The reason we don't have seats is because we've pushed away the American public. I mean, pretending that there is no problem with the Democratic Party and that if we can just coerce people into one more election, we're going to dominate and we're going to suddenly control Congress, even though we've been struggling for all this time and we have these historically like unpopular positions. I think that's completely unrealistic. I believe that it's possible to for a period of time be able to claw elections here and there. And
wait, can I ask real quick? What did the Democrats do to push away the average American?
I think that they adopted a series of social policies and some other policies.
One policy.
I think the overemphasis on things like defunding the police and things. I think the way that the party handled the conversation of things like white privilege and the way that they've handled some of the conversations about how bigotry is violent.
If you were to turn off all Republican media and listen to Democrats talk, how often would the concept of like white privilege or anything come up?
I mean, I think we haven't used the white privilege terminology in quite a while, but that moved on to anti-racism and all of this stuff. And I want to be clear because I'm going to get clipped. I obviously there's problems with systemic racism and modern day racism and things of that nature, and obviously bigotry exists against trans people and so on and so forth.
To be clear, also I agree with you. As soon as I hear somebody say the term, by the way, anti-racism, I know that this is the most retarded fucking person in the universe to talk to. But I'm just saying that okay. Where do like the only place you see this is on conservative media. It's because Jim Jordan has dragged some insane person. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that our definition of what the Democrats have done is just whoever conservatives can dig up and then put in front of us. There are no like policy. Biden didn't make like, white servitude day or like black
Sure.
worship day or
But
like,
politics is politics, and framing is everything. And the way that you
sure,
That's-
I understand, but I'm
laugh
just saying
and
you
kill
can't
your
fight.
political
You can't
campaign.
fight on a policy level against the right-wing media apparatus. You can't do that.
Well, you're right, but you also have to play politics. I mean, we've had people that have lost political campaigns because they had a funny laugh, and pretending that that isn't a part of this and won't always be a part of this is silly, because it always will be, and there always will be conservative media.
That stuff peaked in 2020, though. And I feel like every time I see a prominent Democrat, like Gavin Newsom, for example, in his podcast with Ben Shapiro,
We're
like
repairing the
like,
damage. Yes.
Obviously he was like deliberately putting distance between himself and like the peak kind of 2020 woke era stuff. I don't see that really in the Democratic Party currently.
I mean, I think when the DNC is opening with land acknowledgements, we've still got a problem.
Wait,
That's
did
in
we do that?
Canada. I don't know. Are they doing that in the United States still?
Yes, the Democrat National Convention. Yes.
Okay, here's the thing.
When?
If this is happening, this is mega cringe. It is a billion times more cringe to fly a fucking traitor Confederate fucking flag in the South, that is widely accepted and adopted. Every time there is a Confederate flag, we should do a land acknowledgement. For every time one of these fucking losers talking about how great Robert E. Lee is, we should have a Che Guevara fucking flag. Not really, but like I'm just saying the difference in fixation is.
Yeah. Let me get through these. We got a couple callers that I want to get to too. Natural Phenomenon for $10 says, I can forgive much if pro-Constitution candidates win. Pro-Constitution is the only brand right now. Pelosi tells candidates run against her. She says, just win, baby, even if calling for new leadership. Thank you for the $10. $10 from Pondering Politics. I'm just starting, so I don't know if this has come up. There's evidence that Kamala telling The View she wouldn't change anything from Biden was a major factor in her defeat. What should she have said?
I think this was such a fucked. It's so hard to figure this out because this was just fucked. The reality is, this is a historically difficult position to navigate. She didn't have enough time to run a campaign, and she was the vice president of the current administration, and she's running in a populist climate where people want to see massive change, but you're obviously tied to the current administration that you're a part of. So I don't know if Kamala could have ever messaged her way out of that.
I don't think she had enough time, period. I don't think that's even talked about enough. We've had a historical problem with candidates not having enough time to campaign. She was a classic example.
Got a lot of issues.
She could have. I mean, like, I wish that somebody mentioned the fact that Pelosi told people, throw me under the bus if you have to. I wish Biden would have done that instead of telling her to basically protect his legacy. It was incredibly selfish of him. She could have distanced herself from him, like, very obviously on the border, and maybe a little bit on Israel, although that one would have worked tricky.
She could have. She should have just called Trump the N-word over and over again until he called her the N-word, and that would have dominated the media cycle. Would have been fucking epic. Unironically, it would have been based.
Okay. $5 from Blacklist OTA to say, to be fair to Chris Robb, he's moderated a surprising amount. He did an interview with Breaking Points where Crystal was visibly disappointed by it. Didn't see the interview. Can't speak to it. $10 from Lydia Wilder. Core principles for Democrats. Protect and aid our global allies, belief in the value of markets, and belief in a robust welfare state in the form of expansive healthcare coverage and food assistance.
I like it.
Ordered liberty. Absolutely.
Fair enough. $2 from Bogsy. Did Bishop say Lockean or Lockheed liberalism?
Although I am a huge proponent of Lockheed liberalism, I said Lockean liberalism, which, to sum it up real quickly, natural rights.
Fair enough. Oh, Ryan,
just as a quick thing, the next election cycle, if the Lib Left doesn't get their shit together, which I don't think they will, also quote me on this because this is a risky prediction, and I hope I'm wrong. I actually don't think that Rubio is going to have much trouble distancing himself from Trump because I just don't think the Republicans are going to talk about it at all. They're going to move on to the next thing, and the Lib Left doesn't have enough resonance in their media cycle to fixate on a particular point, and that'll just be it, right? If we couldn't
and he's not even the vice president.
Yeah, and if we couldn't do the Epstein fucking files, if we couldn't do that, then there's no shot that we're going to be able to tie Rubio to Trump. It'll just be it.
Guess we'll find out.
Rubio's going to inherit all of the good things about MAGA and none of the bad things. I
hope you're wrong.
Even Vance is distancing himself from Trump right now. He's doing it. He did it with the leaks to the New York Times. He kind of did it on The View. It was like,
I just don't think it will work.
Okay.
I hope it won't work. I
hope you're right.
My confidence level is not high on that, but I'm hoping it won't work. So
I think you're working from an outdated premise, Destiny, because I think the media was way too chummy with Trump in the first year, but they're pretty brutal with him right now. Like he is getting savaged in the media.
I'm sorry, this is
Probably
I use
harder
this,
than Biden was.
the media right now feels like I'm trying to like if you go into a village and you kill 100 people every single day, and then a month later you know people are criticizing you, and then you go into a village and kill 20 people, then people are like, okay, like that's where we're at. When you say like the media is being pretty savage to Trump right now, like everything has gotten so normalized in this country. Like it is comical where we're at with Iran is so beyond bad of anything that could have ever been. Like Israel can't accept this peace deal. I wouldn't even blame Israel for not accepting it. Like we have destroyed the balance of power irreparably in the Middle East in ways that might come down the line decades from now. So when we say like the media's being harsh towards Trump, it like kind of, but it's one of those things where like if we win the next election, like if it's not like a 50-state landslide, I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
That's
Speaking
I know
of, if you believe that,
just go to
if you
see
believe that
just
the U.S. has won the Iran war, I want you on my show next week. Please get in contact with me. I'd love to have it.
just go to CNN's YouTube channel, go to MSNBC's YouTube channel, go to ABC News's YouTube channel. It's all like negative coverage of Trump. So I mean, I just I don't think he's getting friendly treatment right now.
It's not just negative coverage though; it's how that coverage permeates and how it's handled, right?
He put a junior officer in charge of the Department of Defense, and then he single-handedly lost a war. I mean, the fact that the fact that there aren't serious talks of impeachment means that he's getting an.
It's crazy. It's like the story of every
insane.
Fascist empire that comes into power and they're gone in one generation. Yeah. We have a person who renames, an alcoholic renames the Department of Defense to the Department of War, and then the U.S. loses the first war in like its whole history as bad as it ever has before. Is unbelievably fucking ironic. It's like bad writing and a shitty fucking Netflix series for how over the top stupid it is.
Technically, they didn't legally change the name.
No, that's true. It's just
the
title of it. Thank you.
See,
there it is. He's doing it right now. Hutch it right now for Trump. There he is. It's the guy who thinks we just need to win the midterms to do nothing.
I don't want you giving him too much credit.
I'm just kidding.
$5. Let me finish these. $5 from Lawson Harrison. You guys are wrong. Hassan Abi heads don't live with their parents. Their parents live with them. It's different.
Because they're providing homes for, like what Hassan does. True.
$10 from It's Vishy. What do Whick and Bishop think of the Blue Dog Caucus? They are moderate Dems who have better rhetoric than leftists, but will also critique the party. They also have been voting worse than the squad. Bishop, I have an answer, but do you want to answer that, Bishop? Is he? Did he? He might be gone. Okay. Yeah, I think that the Blue Dog Caucus, such as it is, it has an abysmal voting record in a lot of ways. I haven't looked at their rhetoric lately. I can't speak to it. But again, my problem isn't I criticize some of the things that the Democratic Party does. That's not what I'm beating the drum about today. My issue is with, again, buying into Republican narratives on Democrats, promoting them in order to win, and also simply just being anti-Democrat in general, even in competitive states. I think it does long-term harm to the party, long-term harm to the brand, and it makes it harder to win nationally overall. Hopefully Bishop gets back soon, and he can answer, but he's not here now. Okay, $2 from It's Vishy. As a Hutch hating leftist, I think him and D won. Well, you're wrong, but thank you for the $2. $2 from Lydia Wilder. The Mamdani media. Oh my, there he is.
I got to get going here pretty soon, Wick, just so you know.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll read the rest of them later. Let me bring in a couple callers, okay?
All right.
Hello.
Whoa,
You're live.
whoa.
Hello. You're muted on your end. If you're trying to talk. Hi, what do you got for the panel?
I want to disagree with the tiny streamer.
Go ahead.
So I think your idea about fixing the liberal media, I don't think that's going to work at all. I think you can. I agree with you, like the approach to the right wing media, but the left wing media, I don't. I think people will smell or like sniff out if it's a pro. Like if CNN is suddenly going to go really pro Democrat, I don't think that works. I think it comes across as kind of condescending to voters.
No, I don't think so. I think that's a bullshit talking point that the conservatives put out, and then they come and they beat us over the head with it. And the conservatives are like, but don't you guys want to be like criticizing your own? And then you're like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. That's just not true. For any listen, I think
you're gonna have bad candidates. They're gonna get ripped apart by the opposition.
Why?
If they can't handle like you were watching that CNN interview with Dana Bash.
Yeah.
With I think that was a very neutral and fairly soft, not soft, but it was a neutral interview that any normal journalist would be, and any normal politician should be able to handle.
Sure.
And
first of all, you're retarded. But secondly, show me a Trump interview that was like that.
The one with ABC that he walked out of.
What was the question they asked that made him walk out of that interview? Do you remember? I don't actually remember. That's not like a bonus, or that's not like a test question.
I also don't remember.
She was firm with him. I'm gonna stick up for the caller here. She was firm with him. She asked him follow up. She didn't let him get away with stuff.
No, I agree. She was, and Trump left. He walked. Elon Musk, didn't he walk from his Don Lemon interview?
He did.
And that was on his own fucking platform. The reality is conservatives don't.
You want that? That's a win.
No, yeah, but Trump's already fucking 7 elections deep now into fucking our country. Like, it's too late at this point. Where were these interviews prior to this? They don't have them. They don't have these challenging interviews. Like, yes, now, after tariffing the world, after unlimited fucking corruption and bribery on orders of magnitude that are just previously unheard of in American politics, and after losing the worst war in all of U.S. history, now he's getting kind of tough interview questions. Like,
don't disrespect Jonathan Swan like that, because he tore him up in 2020.
Was he the meme guy?
The Australian guy.
Yeah, with the pictures.
Yeah.
Like, we still have people going in front of Congress who won't acknowledge who won the 2020 election. By the way, every single one of those motherfucking...
That's liberal media not holding Republicans to account, not necessarily giving Democrats a hard ride. I think these are two separate things. I think...
Why are Republicans so dominant when they don't have any challenging interviews on their side?
Say it again, sorry?
Why are Republicans so dominant? How were they were able to sell the idea that the election was rigged in 2020 and nobody on their side challenged them for it?
That's the right-wing media. I agree with you on the right-wing media. I think the left-wing media can be hard on Republicans. The right-wing media is not hard on Republicans at all. But I don't think the left-wing media being more soft on Democrats, I don't think that benefits you at all.
It does, because it lets them get a message out without it constantly being challenged everywhere. So we can at least start.
What question would you have liked Dana Bash to ask Kamala Harris that you didn't ask?
I don't think her questions were necessarily bad, but like the follow-ups related to the fracking thing, right? There's a layup way that you can answer that question. Like, I know in the past, Kamala, you seem to have been a bit more hostile towards fracking, but now it seems like your opinion has changed. What would you say to Americans that are a little bit worried that you might change your opinion on that again? Was it the fact that we are making so much money off of fracking now that you think it's a good policy that the United States should continue? And then Kamala would go, yeah, I think it's so good now. I agree, blah, 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 blah. And then that would be how you would advance that.
So she answers the question for her?
Yeah, welcome to every Trump interview ever. That's every Fox News interview with every single Trump person ever. Yes.
I don't think you want at that point. You don't really have a media. Like, is the media called like the fourth estate or something, where like it's supposed to be like?
Oh shit!
At that point, you don't actually have a functional media whatsoever.
No, you're true. Actually, that's actually kind of true. I actually do think there's a lot of virtue in the lib left constantly holding ourselves to this like really high standard of like First Amendment principles and good, strong media criticism. And I think we're getting so much out of that. I come, by the way, to that question. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Rick. Sorry.
You're fine. Dev, do you have anything for the panel?
Well, that traceless guy in the backstage, he was there for an hour before any of us.
I know what he wants to ask.
As soon as I joined in, he was like, if you guys get in before me, I'm going to fucking... He's probably flipping out in there right now.
I know what he wants to ask. It's about Darius stuff, and I don't give a shit.
Oh, is it? Oh, Jesus, okay.
I don't give a shit.
So I've been listening. I took some notes, but the other guy left, so I'm going to not talk about the things I wanted to say to him. Firstly...
Bishop, he's right here.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you came back?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. What's up, Dev?
Okay, yeah, real quick. You mentioned Lockean liberalism. You know that Locke believed that atheists couldn't be good citizens, right?
Maybe when Locke was alive, that was right. Sorry.
Locke, yeah, so Lockean Lockean philosophy is not defined by every little thing that he had. If you want to get into the relevancy of Lockean political philosophy and American thought, you're going to start with 2 treaties of government, and that's going to be the foundation for everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know that the Constitution came from basically the 2 treaties. I understand. Yeah. So I guess somebody mentioned platforms like Libs of TikTok digging up the absolute worst of the left and then projecting them out there as if they are the entirety of the Democratic Party, right?
I've said something like that before, yes.
Yes, and that's definitely true. It's also, however, I think it's not just what conservatives manage to dig up. It's also that other left-wing groups across the world do tend to be more left-wing than American left-wing groups. And then you have people saying that, oh, this is what the left is, right? Because, like, the left in the UK is kind of crazy. The left in Canada is kind of crazy. The left in America is a little bit less crazy. So I do think you have a situation right now where a lot of other countries' issues are being transplanted into American politics. And that goes both ways. But they're being transplanted into American politics basically just to service a right-wing agenda that doesn't really exist, if that makes sense.
Probably true, yes.
Oh, okay. I guess the last thing to think about is I've been watching you guys have this discussion about Democratic optics for over a year now. There's been 5 or 6 different panels on it, a few of them on your channel, Whick. And I'm not sure it matters as much as you guys think it matters. The whole media thing's really important. But in my view, Trump won 2016 because he was the only politician who was willing to critique the Second Iraq War, right? Biden won 2020 because COVID happened under Trump. Trump won 2024 because COVID inflation happened under Biden, and then there was the last-minute switch with Kamala Harris. I think the American voter really just remembers the last big thing that happened that they don't like, and then they vote accordingly. And some of that's going to be media, but a lot of it, like, I think the Democrats are set up to win big. And there's a lot of work to do after they win big, but, like, I'm not sure... Even a really solid Republican messaging apparatus plus a really shitty Democratic one, that's still not going to save the Republicans coming up. I think some of this is kind of out of our hands.
Sure. I agree to an extent that, yes, the environment is somewhat beyond our individual control or even the control of the party or even control of any messaging or any media apparatus. I would agree with that. That's true.
We can
but I
control
reject. Hold on. I reject the idea that there is nothing we can do. Right? I just reject that idea. And what you're saying there kind of implies that it doesn't really matter what we say, what we do, what we run on, the policies that we present. It's just going to, whatever event happens, we are subject to the whims of fate. And I just reject that as a concept. I don't think that's true.
I mean, I reject that too, but I do think that Trump is so unpopular right now that you could have Democrats raping babies publicly and they'd still win elections. So, like, I think the Republicans are so fucked right now.
That's obviously something you can say. I do agree, and I think that that's one of the problems that we're seeing is a lot of people are going to. This is why a lot of the DSA types and the lefty types are shooting their shot right now, because this is the best chance that they're going to get. And when they do win, because if they don't have an R next to their name, they are more likely to win. They'll point to that and say, see, our policies were popular the whole time. And it's going to cause a whole chain reaction of issues that we're all going to have to clean up with or clean up in the Democratic Party after this. But yeah, I get your point. I get what you're saying. Is there a question for you have for either Hutch, because he has to go soon, or Destiny?
I guess these aren't just questions, just me kind of giving my thoughts on what I've seen so far. I mean, the reason I think this is because I remember at some point for a video that I did a year or two ago, it would have been a year ago, I went over just the data from the 2024 election, and Trump didn't actually really gain any voters. He had more raw votes, but proportionally, it was in all the various demographics and locations, they were all roughly the same. The only thing that changed is that the American population grew. So he didn't really get any more votes, really. What happened is that a whole bunch of Democratic voters were demoralized and stayed home. That's what happened. So really, I think, and this time around, the Democrats are not going to be demoralized. They have a lot of reasons to get the fuck out there and vote. So I think this is kind of in the bag. That's all.
Cool. Wonderful. Hutch, you have to go soon. I want you to give an outro and let people know where they can find you, all these things if you need to head out. So
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. You guys can find me at youtube.com/Hutch, twitch.tv/Hutch. I stream usually Sunday through Friday starting at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
of course, always a pleasure, man. I don't know.
Cheers, buddy.
Do you do you have any other issues that you wanted to bring up while you're here, Dev, or you're good?
No, why? Why do you ask?
I'm just curious, man.
Well, wait, do you want me to say something ridiculous and destroy my career
No,
further after
no, that's
Sunday?
Okay, that's good. We're good.
Whoa.
Okay. Traceless, you're here, and Mendel, what do you got for the panel while we're here?
So I wanted to touch base on what Destiny brought up earlier about kind of like media bias and kind of sucking Trump's cock. Fox News kind of does that a lot, obviously, because they're a right-wing media outlet. But they also give them the easiest questions in the world. Like they'll ask him, like, how, for example, earlier, I think it was in January, they were like, "How was your weekend? You had a busy weekend. Tell us about it." Like shit like that. It's like they're not pressing him on anything. When he does shit that's fucked for the country, they're just like, it's not a big deal. And I also remember when Fox was also kind of like genuinely kind of slandering Destiny on that one thing back with the whole Charlie Kirk shit when he was talking about that. And they're like, Destiny got fired from his site or whatever. It was like Jesse Walters being a retard. It's just frustrating. In regards to the democracy with the Democratic Party, their identity, I think they need to continue to touch base on what they campaigned on for the 2024 election, but just maybe elaborate more on the points that directly affect the average American. So like the cost of education, the cost of living, affordability, and stuff like that. And they can also now use Trump's economy and the Republicans, how they've handled the country throughout since 2025 and 2026, and we'll say 2024 because they had the majority of the House and Senate, correct, after the election was done. So we can point to the price of the cost of goods, the cost of gasoline still, that is in like the upper $4 range continuously, which is fucked. So I'm just saying stuff like that. We could use that against them, and that's how we win, is basically advertise with that.
Okay.
We gotta start doing those grocery receipt posts. All right, like we got to bring those back. I feel like those
True.
move numbers.
Yes. I just don't have any receipts from like 2023 or 2022. I just don't. Okay, Mendel, how do you say your name, sir? Do you have a question for the panel?
Yeah, just two things quickly. One, the previous caller reminded me of this thought, but I was wondering your thoughts on this because I was thinking about for 2028, for me personally, the number one thing that I really care about is I want someone to come up and say, I am going to appoint a commission with like, I don't know, tons and tons of people are going to read every email, every White House correspondent, every single thing that this admin did, all the way down to like the runners and the messengers, and find every little bit of corruption and see who was telling people. Like, that's what I care the most about, is the corruption. I was wondering if you think that's a viable strategy.
Yeah, I think that running on law and order, running on the rule of law, ordered liberty, as Bishop here would say, that's a very fine strategy, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
And my second question was more for I've been trying to get on a few different panels recently because I'm a high school teacher in New York in the Jewish community here, and I myself am not a practicing Jew, but just I wanted to discuss at some point all the various left-leaning and left-wing anti-Semitic tropes that have been coming up and stuff like that, and just want to dig deeper into that at a future time. I'm actually a subscriber for both of you guys. I just wanted to put out there, maybe if you guys have time in the future.
DM me, and if you have an interesting topic like that, just DM me, and we'll see what we can set up. But thanks for coming, man.
Thank you.
Okay. And last but
Excuse me,
certainly
Whick.
not least, Lawson Harrison. Mr. Harrison, what do you have for us today, sir?
What up, fellas? I just wanted to add one thing to that last caller. The corruption is something I care a lot about. And when you hear people say, like, how do we do this without being political? There's no chance of us being able to tackle the corruption thing without it being political. There's just no way to do it because it's going to be so one-sided. And that's all I got.
True.
There is
Okay,
I wish I could
guys.
remember. There was a fucking, I think a lawyer emailed me, and another lawyer had a great quote, but it had to do with the Pisco thing when Pisco was defending Hassan over his TSA shit like a year ago. It was one of the most retarded positions that Peace Corps ever taken. But it, fuck, I wish I could remember this guy emailed exactly. But basically, the idea was that as long as you stick like a bumper sticker on a car with a political slogan, now every single traffic stop becomes a political thing. And the idea that you would, or rather, you could argue it that way. The idea that you could ever try to separate out the political bumper sticker from any traffic stop becomes impossible. But like, if you're a serious human being, you would say, well, obviously, just because he has the political bumper sticker doesn't mean that it was a political stop. But like, if the news wants to say this or somebody wants to argue this, that's always going to be an argument that somebody can put out there. All that to say that, like, what Lawson said is correct. It would come off as a political process because there is a political party in power and everybody doing the messaging, like message runners or emails or whatever the fuck else, are all going to be Republican. So it's always going to come off as political, but you can't let that stop you. That's a word that's wielded sometimes by people to scare people out of enforcing anything. It's like, oh, you're politically partisan. You're politically, they don't care about that at all. And also, yeah, it's politics. Of course, it's going to at least appear to be somewhat politically partisan, but it's ridiculous to say that just because you slap a political action on something that the underlying crimes or whatever become undiscoverable.
I agree. Now, obviously, there's ways to do it that would highlight the political nature of it and ways that will kind of subdue it. And so, obviously, I do think rhetoric matters in that. But you're correct. It doesn't matter what it is. If Republicans don't like it, they're going to call it political lawfare, all these things, right? Even if it's the most legitimate thing in the world. So, no, it can't stop us, but we do have to be cognizant of how we are viewed and take that into account because I do think that matters.
Yeah.
$10 from Skeptical Ninja. It's been bugging me the whole time. Can you have Censor Bar Dude pronounce Talarico and Chasm?
Oh, I mean, I'm probably mispronouncing it. I feel like it's Talarico and Chasm.
Chasm.
Yeah. Also, wait, I'm sorry. Let me read these 3 sentences real fast. I found this email. It was November 25th. A guy emailed me and said, 1.5 years ago, SCOTUS heard a case regarding where to draw the line between political persecution and legitimate prosecution. And oral arguments, Lisa Blatt, a famously spicy SCOTUS lawyer, made a rhetorically catchy argument, and then he links to be a timestamp. And the quote is, I really would advise every criminal to put a political bumper sticker on their car. The argument was convincing enough for Justice Alito to reference it in his concurrence, and then he links to the Supreme Court for this. And then, quote, I think the quote, this might be from Alito. For example, a driver with an anti-police bumper sticker on his car could claim that any traffic stop was due to his protected speech. Any person who carries a sign while trespassing, blocking traffic, or disturbing the peace could similarly allege that an arrest for these offenses was motivated by the sign's message. All I to say, don't let people use like, oh, this is political as a stopping mechanism for, trying to figure out, corruption in the Republican Party, I think,
Wearing my MAGA hat as I stab people.
Exactly.
Call my prosecution lawfare. Yeah,
yep.
That's great.
Basically.
Okay. $10 from Drive Me to Fire. This is a 2-chat question, and he did pay $10 more, so I'll ask him. 1, do you think a big reason for the discrepancy in media loyalty between the left and right is that the right leading populace is just easier to capture, entertain, and hold, leading to behemoth networks like Fox, The Daily Wire, and Tucker, whereas the left-leaning populace has higher standards and more willing to incline to fracture their news sources?
No, unfortunately. You used to be able to say that, but the fact that they could capture so much of like the kind of like tech world shows that obviously even smart people can fall for this style of messaging.
Yeah.
Mamba Claude for $5. Whick, tell Hutch that Destiny thinks one battle after another is a bad movie. I'll have to DM it to him. Sorry. $2 from the Trib One to say we need IRI to make course for Libs Online. Make a course for Libs Online. Sure, I'd watch that. $10 from the Ramen Don. Question for Bishop. How do we force out the pro-2 Second Amendment argument among safe blue areas in a more effective way? Also, shout out the 47.
Yo. I think the largest argument for the Second Amendment anywhere is obviously the constitutionality of it. I think that we're very lucky right now that the Second Amendment community has moved away from the NRA, which is they've really, let's say, at least slowed down on their ability to advocate for gun rights. And so I think that really it's going to have to happen in a courtroom. I'm following the ongoing legal challenges against the new firearms legislation in Virginia right now, and it seems like even though Abigail Spanberger is quite a moderate politician, It seems like the quickest and most efficient way, which is like 6 months to 3 years from now of seeing change, it's going to happen in the courtroom. So thank goodness for the Constitution as far as that goes.
Fair enough. $10 from the Skeletal Big. The only way to fix the media apparatus is to make the internet a public utility and regulate cable news like the radio waves. Also, everyone chat needs to flood the zone with their free AI prompts. Well, first of all, no, making the internet a public utility would be I think the term is common carrier. That would be horrific. We don't need that. I think that would be a bad thing for the ability of media companies and social media companies to moderate their platforms in a way that they would, that would be okay with free association. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Any disagreement on there?
What would they do that they can't already do that they aren't already
So
doing?
if you become a common carrier or a public utility, then you are not allowed to discriminate based on certain factors that you otherwise would be as a private company. And
so asking again, what are they doing right now that they, or what would they be able to do that they're not already doing? The Republicans in power.
Well, no, I don't think it's an issue of what the Republicans would or would not do. I think it's a freedom of association issue, just as a principle, right? You would have media company or not media companies, social media companies be unable to make decisions for their own platforms, and I'm just fundamentally opposed to that. It's not a Republican or a Democrat issue in this case, in my opinion.
My belief on the issue is that the human brain is not going to be able to develop in a way to effectively handle the information operations that are happening over social media and the internet at large, and the damage is going to become so great that eventually there's going to be legislation passed that is going to significantly censor those parts of the internet, if not the internet as a whole. I think that we're already seeing that in the UK right now, and maybe it'll be a like crazy amount of time in between Europe reaching that point and the United States, but it will happen eventually. That's my take.
I don't know. Okay, 5 gift TV memberships. Thank you, True Striker. $5 from Mamba Claude. Hutch is always fighting against Destiny Solutions. Has Hutch thought of he who saves his country breaks no law so we can deport Barry Wise?
True.
Okay, $5 from Dylan Blair. Would you support?
To clear the record, I don't think Hutch was fighting against any of my solutions, though. To be fair, okay.
Fair enough. $5 from Dylan Blair. Would you support reducing the threshold for impeachment in the Senate to 30 senators? It's mutually assured destruction as deterrence. 30 is perhaps too low of a bar, in my opinion.
No.
Okay, $5 from True Striker. The Batman was just okay. Too dark, and the actor who played Commissioner Gordon phoned it in. If you like that movie, you have bad movie takes. Did we mention the Batman? Is that? Look, thanks for the $5, I guess. $10 from Thunder of Transtifa. The Clintons have done the most damage to the party brand at no fault of their own. You don't fight that by running candidates in red and purple districts who attach themselves more to the party, lol. What do you mean the Clintons have done more party brand damage than anything else? I disagree with you.
I also disagree.
Yeah, I think that Hillary Clinton was treated like a pariah when she ran for president, and history has done nothing but vindicate her.
Yeah, if anything, like the people running against her, Bernie Sanders, etc., have done more damage to the Democratic Party brand.
Whoa.
It's just true. It's just true.
The Bernie Bros? He can still win, by the way.
Okay. $5 from Mr. Miggs, just $5. I love that. Nothing I have to say. $10 from Vishu. Never understood the hesitancy with Plattner. Just own him and his mistakes. GOP had worse candidates that won, and they don't care. If he's attacked, bring up another bad GOP candidate or Trump. Well, again, my issue with Plattner and people like Plattner is I don't want my party to be the party of you can go to Main Street and shoot 5 people and not lose a single voter. I don't think that's a healthy party dynamic, and I don't want that I don't want to be a part of that party.
I just hate Plattner because I hate vets.
Yeah, fair. Sorry about that. I don't want to give Plattner the 51st vote. I don't want to give him the most power. out of the entire Senate. I think that somebody who is dishonest about virtually everything and who doesn't have any values at all, right? He doesn't value his service. He's completely abandoned what is supposed to be probably the most important thing to him. He clearly doesn't value the sanctity of his marriage. The fact that this man is supposed to be the 51st vote and resist corruption in the Senate, I think is a bit of a stretch.
Okay. $20 from Temi Dank. What mechanism, norms, would you want in place to ensure unity, but enable self-criticism in the party so that it doesn't run into an echo chamber problem? It always feels like it's not the right time to criticize. You're big on the media stuff. What mechanisms would you want in place
For
to ensure that we can still
who's
criticize?
saying you can't criticize what?
I don't know, right? But
Well, I mean, you can criticize. It's just we also need a place where we can have like friendly things. Okay, if I get accused of not that I get it. Imagine me being accused of anything. If I get accused of murdering a child, okay, and I look and I've got like 8 platforms available to me, and I know that all of these interviews are going to be tough, all right, and nobody in the public knows, well, what's Destiny's side of this story for murdering a child. I'm gonna be fighting for my life on every platform I go on. If I can do like 3 interviews first, where every interview is like a layup, we're like, okay, so we know you've had a bit of drama lately, so let's talk, okay? So you're in Miami, Florida, where the children are really fucking annoying, okay? And, you know, I've seen the police report. This kid ran out in front of your car. Apparently it was late at night. You know, a lot of us can't even see while driving. Can you give your side of what happened, Destiny? If I have the opportunity to do that in 3 different interviews, then my narrative is set, and everybody that's like on my team kind of knows, like, okay, this is the story. Now when I go and fight on other interviews on hostile platforms, I have that narrative set and I can kind of like reference back to it while I'm in more combative areas. Democrats don't ever get the opportunity to start from a position of here's our story and then we're going to go out and defend it. They have to try to like refine the story on adversarial platforms, which is impossible. I just don't think you can do it.
that's fair.
And, to your point, Destiny, I also happen to believe that on the Republican side, they get a lot more of a luxury on media. They don't get treated as poorly, in my opinion, on like live like interviews and stuff. They don't really get pressed as hard as they should
It's
be.
a double standard.
Yeah.
It is, absolutely. Dev,
Yep.
did you have something to say? No? Fair enough.
Sorry, what?
No, never mind. I thought
Owned.
you unmuted to say something, but you did not.
You owned him.
Okay, $5 from Trevica. Chorus would have been the Dems media apparatus, but it got astroturfed by lefties over fake concerns over corporate Dems being evil. It has to stop. Well, yeah, I think that, like, I guess as a the obstacle or one of the obstacles to us building an alternative media structure like the one that the Republicans have are these arsonists in the party who are just we are basically fighting for control of the Democratic apparatus, and we need to win that before we can do anything.
And by the way, the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by having people that are willing to endure the criticism from those arsonists. The problem is there's too many weak leaders that they don't even believe half of the things that the arsonists are pushing for, but they're too afraid to face the criticism. And so they capitulate to things that they don't even agree with. And that's where we're at.
$1,000,000,000,000%. And it's not even that they're too weak to face the criticism. It's that they won't defend the other people that are having to deal with it. As long as that environment exists, yeah, because everybody's fucking petrified.
We need a streamer. I've talked to Crowd about this, but we need a streamer NATO, okay? We need a liberal NATO, social media NATO, basically.
Could you imagine having a streamer NATO where anytime somebody says anything bad about you, there's like a whole network of people that light up across Twitch and social media, and Casey Tron and Frogan and Mike from PA and Emma Vigilin and Hassan Piker and all of the soccer people and all of the Reddit subs and like Fao Moy and all these, right? Yes. Like that's what happens, right? Anytime one of them get dinged, every single person lights up to come out and provide like the most uncritical support of these people imaginable. Yeah.
We need that. We do.
The deep state is in the works, boys. Just send me a DM.
We'll get it. We'll put it together. The power behind the throne will rise again. Okay. We'll get it.
I mean,
we'll get it done.
I think the problem with that is that liberals tend to be more self-reflective because they actually do want to improve and be better. So it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
It's not. Do it somewhere else. Then do it somewhere else. Parents can want to change the way that they parent, but that doesn't mean that mom and dad have to disagree in front of the child. And right now, the media is the messaging for the political party, so treat it as such. There's no virtue for, like, managers can disagree, but you always present a unified front to employees. You're not going to have your manager and his boss disagreeing in front of employees. It's just not professional. It's not good. No business is ran that way. No household is ran that way. And no country should be ran that way, unfortunately, right now, how it goes.
Yeah, I agree.
10 gift TV memberships from AK Batozai. Thank you. $5 from Benji Boy. Thanks for hosting another great discussion. Oh, you're welcome. Did I already say this? $5 from Hedonic Samuel. Good stuff, Whick. Tell Steve to tell Dan's cat that I said pss, 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 pss. Okay. Eliglick Liffy. Democratic messaging and Democratic media at large should mention Alex Preddy and Renee Good in every other sentence, like it's Lincoln Riley.
That should definitely be a much larger part of discourse than it is.
Well, there's just one of the I guess strengths of the Trump regime in 2.0 is that there's a new thing to be mad about every week.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Things get forgotten, unfortunately. So we don't realize just how bad it is because we are always kind of just going on to the next thing, moving on to the next thing.
There needs to be fucking posters with the service members that we lost in this god awful war on every fucking corner. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
How many people died? How many times did we hear about the Afghanistan pullout stuff? How many times did we hear about that? Crazy enough, also, another thing negotiated by Donald Trump. Isn't that fucking crazy how that works?
Yeah.
So what a fucking loser, dude. There are so many fucking things that I can't say on these stupid websites. Oh my god.
We still hear from
the least.
So we still hear about that one woman who was killed during J6, like she's a hero, and it's 6 years later.
The one whose family they paid out $5 million of blood money to. Unfucking believable.
Yeah, money from my taxpayer money. Yeah.
Isn't that bullshit though? You're allowed to just that can just happen. Like you don't get a say in that as American. Like if I say like I don't want my money going to some random person that didn't deserve it,
Pretty crazy.
I'm just saying.
300 billion to Iran. Get ready. Have fun paying that off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I am curious how, and this is the black pill in me. I'm curious if this is too far away from the midterms to be relevant.
Probably.
Unfortunately.
That's why my biggest fear has always been they find a way to resolve this, and then gas prices and everything start to settle and come down, and Americans are like, actually, okay. I'm kind of happy right now.
Dustin, do you think they would suck Trump's dick after that happens too? As soon as the gas prices go down, they'll be like, "Look what Trump did! He got our gas prices back down." The Republicans campaign on it.
Look what happened.
That's what they do.
Yep.
Yeah. Look what happened after the third or fourth assassination attempt. They used it to push the ballroom, right? Like, and they were on point. It was lockstep, and they just pushed that shit.
You want to know who I'll vote for? I will donate all my money and support them. Is the person who's running for president, who after the next assassination attempt goes on media and is like, man, why do so many people hate this motherfucker? That's what I want to hear, okay?
Okay. $20 from Dirty Deeds to say Democrats mean nothing. Liberalism is what we should strive for. If the shackles of the party must be thrown off, then so be it. Playing a political endgame will leave the other endgame near unwinnable. Both are important. Thank you for the $20. Well, that's the thing. Democrats and liberalism should go hand in hand. I think that we should tie these two together.
Yep. That is how you have a lasting a lasting system, is by core principles that are going to belong in a political philosophy.
Yep. $10 from Zarek. Question for Destiny. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you believe the Democrats need to tell a more coherent American story. Any idea on how to create that environment?
No, that's not at all what I'm saying right now. That is an issue down the line that Democrats need to deal with. But right now, we just need to not lose ourselves to whatever the fuck is happening.
I don't know. Okay, my username. You called in. What do you got?
The overall topic of discussion. Yes, you should, if you have to, bully some other Democrats to gain seats. Assuming that their principles or stances that they would bring forth are not liberal in nature, and more in a more neutral environment. This is a far more extreme environment in general. But for political necessity, I think that is actually very much required based off of the America's very fucking large. And there's a lot of different people who live in America, and you have to, if you want to win votes, you have to kind of tailor a lot of your things to each individual cultures. We have 37 million people in America across 50 different states. They're all vastly different with different needs, different worries, different responses. I would, for the original question, I would suggest that. And then for Destiny's comment, no, this is why the Democrats lost. The quote unquote spirit of the nation kind of died under Democrats, based off of.
What do you mean by the spirit of the nation died under Democrats? What do you mean?
Too many trans people. King.
No. It's not. The what it meant to be an American, and this is an incredibly amorphous subject, and it completely is different for, not completely different, but is different for every American, what it means. But it seems that like somewhere along the line, and it's not only Democrats, that we've lost this monoculture that is that this is what is American, and we've kind of split it from that a lot. So the Republicans more so, I would say, as a reaction, not as an instigator.
Okay.
Yeah, I disagree. I loosely understand what you are describing, but I have no idea how that's associated with the Democrats, and I also don't really feel like my understanding of what you're describing happened under the Democrats necessarily.
No, it's been a long. I would have the same critique towards Republicans if they weren't massive quivering pussies.
Yeah, like death of the monoculture. I mean, that's kind of like the rise of the internet and so on and so forth. But I don't think that's certainly not like 2020 to 2024.
No, this has been a long. The separation of the both parties moving away from each other has been around for longer than 2020 to 2024. This is just, I don't want to say this is predetermined, but this was,
Okay.
looking back at it, this kind of seems like Trump is a bit of a fluke, but the polarization does seem to be like a natural progression so far. Trump is very weird.
Trump is weird. That is true. Okay. Other guy, new guy. What do you got? Quickly.
Yeah. So whatever describing a Democrat, you keep talking about the adherence to liberal principles, and I kind of want to reiterate here, kind of what Destiny said earlier, that like an adherence to liberal principles should be the floor across the board. Republicans, Green Party, Libertarians, Democrats, like this should be what unites us as Americans. So when you ask like what it means to be a Democrat and what it means to have the Democratic brand, you just saying liberalism doesn't really say anything. And then on top of that, kind of what Hutch was getting at is that if adherence to liberal principles is really what we need to defend here, which it is, then sometimes shedding adherence to a party whose brand isn't doing anything for the fight I'm trying to have might be beneficial.
So my
Sorry,
concern,
I-
and I'll just just real quick. I'll just reiterate my concern. Like it might be beneficial, but I think that the long-term harms of that is it's like if your doctor prescribes a medication, you can't. Well, a lot of these things are harmful if you keep taking them over a long period of time. That's why they
Okay.
only give you a certain amount and a certain time. My issue is none of you guys know how to properly apply these principles or these things. And I don't think it's necessary either. I think that you're prescribing
Sure.
ivermectin for COVID,
Okay. Well, let
and
me
it's
ask
not
you
going to
this
actually
then.
work, and it's going to, at best case, do nothing, and at
Okay.
worst
Well,
case, cause you a lot of problems.
sure. Let me ask you this then. Would you give up the Democratic Party for the continuance of liberal democracy?
If that was on the table, yes. Would you give up your position that we should that we need to criticize the Dems if I can demonstrate 100% that wouldn't work ever? Like, yes, the answer is obviously yes, you would. Like, we don't have a
Yeah.
crystal ball,
So what I'm
these
saying
things
is,
are 100%.
so what I'm saying here now, right? Kind of what Hutch was getting at earlier, and kind of what Destiny was getting at, is that we're not really in a battle between Democrats and Republicans right now. We're in a battle between liberal people and illiberal people. And if maintaining
I agree.
if maintaining a liberal democracy means shedding the veneer of a party affiliation, then I will do that, because what undergirds
Sure.
all of
I don't
that
think it
is adherence
means
to
that.
liberalism.
I don't
Yeah,
think it
and
means that right now. The people who are trying to shed the veneer and change what the Democratic is are illiberal people. It is
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like Hassan. It
Yes, but
is
if
from
we
the
see,
left,
but if we
right?
don't,
These are the
but
people who are asking you. May I finish? These are the people who
Mhm.
are asking you and pushing you, and these are the primary driving factor of the people who are like, you need to throw Chuck Schumer, the DNC, Biden, all these people under the bus. These are the main movers and shakers of this rhetoric. Why do you think that they are trying to do that? Why are they think that they are trying to convince you that it is necessary to do
Yeah,
that in order to
we're not talking about. Sorry, I'm going to mispronounce his name again. Tallarico. We're not talking about him taking an unpopular stance like transgender issues on minors or some aspects of the border. We're not talking about him taking these unpopular policies and abandoning them. We're talking about people that are specifically pushing bad faith, illiberal, dishonest
sure.
arguments. And so when you're saying, oh well, this is the fight between D and R is liberal versus illiberal, it's like, yes, that's true. But on top of that, we're also facing a lot of illiberal elements in the D camp, and we need
Yes,
to
but it's
take that
because
seriously as well.
I'm sorry if I may. It's because we're allowing them to define the ground that they want to fight on, and always reacting to what narratives that they put in play, right? Like Destiny says all the fucking time, right? Democrats are always responding to Republican narratives. Republicans drive the narrative on anything they want about what Democratic messaging is, what Democratic positions is, and we're always reacting after the fact. So what happened is, I don't know how much you know about like RTSs or like any type of like tactical strategy. One of the most important things that you can do in any engagement is to establish some fortified position on the ground on which you're going to fight. And by allowing them a first crack at what they believe liberalism to be, now we're fighting on their territory, under their framing, and on their terms. And we will always lose that fight when specifically the infrastructure that we have is behind them as well.
Yeah, the linguistic ground is very important, and rejecting their linguistic territory, their linguistic framing is a very important part of establishing boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, but you understand my point though, right? Like that the point of being willing to shed this veneer of like party affiliation is us allowing ourselves the ability to fight on
No.
ground equivalent to them.
I disagree. I
Right?
disagree. I
Yeah.
think that what you're doing is you're
Okay.
buying into their narrative framework, that you have swallowed the pill that they have sold you, right? That they have tricked you into buying, that you need
Do
to
you know
do
how to
this
break
in order
somebody out of
to.
a cult, Wick?
Huh?
Do you know how to break somebody out of a cult? Like somebody who's deeply bought in. Like, do you know what the first step is?
Separate them from the cult.
No. It's to establish some sense of understanding of their reality. You have to make them believe that you understand their reality, and that you have to at some point in the beginning engage with them on that reality, because trying to take a sledgehammer to that reality is only going to make them double down. You have to begin by coaxing them into understanding that they're like to sow some doubt in it before you have any hope of breaking it, right? So
Uh,
I'm
what
sorry, this is retarded. This is like some
Yeah,
Ooh.
I don't
Hassan
think this.
level
I
fucking
don't think this
intelligence.
applies
This is
to
this,
Uh-oh.
politics.
this is correct. The same way you get people into the cult is the same way you get people out of a cult. It's building rapport.
Okay, we're not
yes.
talking
Always
about
do.
getting people out of a
You
cult.
build rapport.
And we're also not talking about building rapport with voters. Hello?
We're
What do you think
talking
a
about the
politician's job
idea.
is to do? Wait. What do you think a politician's job is to do?
Yes, that's what
Except
I'm
build rapport
saying.
with with voters.
That's my point. Thank
Build a
you,
connection.
Kelly. Yes, that's my point. Nobody is saying that the politicians should not be building rapport with the voters.
But if building that rapport necessitates them to
Okay, what
shed
if
the
the voters
Democratic
are
Party
racist? Do you think
affiliation.
we should be a little racist to build rapport with them?
Only if it's against
No,
white people.
because
Like, everyone's a little bit
no,
fucking racist. It doesn't matter. Like
no,
I
it's
don't give a
because
shit.
what they believe. No, it's because what they believe is like fundamentally opposed to what like
So
we
if someone
believe as the
believes in
values of liberal
illiberalism, that's
democracy.
fundamentally opposed to what we do, right?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
So if someone believes in illiberalism or illiberal values, that's fundamentally opposed to what we do, right?
Well, I would say so. Yeah,
Yes. So
we
why
would
are
be
we
liberals.
adopting their
Yeah.
framing? Why are we adopting this illiberal framing that the Democrats are bad, that the Democrats are
I'm not
evil, that
saying
the
that we should
Democrats can't do
adopt
it,
it. Wait. I'm not saying we should
or feed
adopt it.
into it?
No. I'm saying we should understand it and we should engage with it as it exists, not as we wish it exists.
I understand, but you don't have to engage it by feeding into it. You can engage it by opposing it.
No, I'm not
Yes,
talking about feeding
understanding it is
into it.
important. I don't
Wait.
disagree that you shouldn't like, obviously, you need to understand even the worst people. You need to be able to have a theory of mind for how they operate and understand their worldview, how they see things in order to better communicate with them. I don't agree with that at all. I don't disagree with that at all. My issue with your advocacy here is that you've seemed to have brought the framing that I think is just incorrect, that people need to do this in order to reach voters, and I don't think that's true.
So those people in Texas, right, the ones that turned down all of that, what was it, FEMA money, because like Biden was gonna get to come and take their fucking homes right before the warning system that it would have paid for, wiped all of them out in a fucking flood, right? Like, do you think that it would be better for a Democrat to go in there and have the message that, yeah, Biden could have probably done a little bit better, right? It's not inherently a lie, right? But it's much easier to sell to them than Biden was perfect on the fucking border and nothing happened and everything was a lie. Like, which do you think would be the better way to go?
I don't think this is a false dichotomy. The false choice, I should say. I'm not asking people to say Biden's perfect or never criticize the Democrats or to criticize what they're doing. What I'm saying is buying into these narratives that they're pushing is hurting us nationally, and
Yeah,
it's
because
very
what you're
important
saying
because
is
hold on,
that
if
buying
I may finish, the brand of the Democratic Party, as we all agree, it's the liberals versus illiberals, and it's very important that liberals win, and it's very important in this context for America as it is today, now, to strengthen that brand and not weaken it.
No, but you just said it. It's important that liberals win.
Yes.
Not necessarily that Democrats win. If we could form a liberal party that would make up 50% of the electorate, that would come from traditional like establishment Republicans and establishment Dems, I would advocate for them because right now, liberalism is what we need to be fighting for.
But you understand, in this environment, if Democrats don't win and a liberal has won.
No, that's only because we live in a two-party system. But what I just laid out is like where.
In order for your thing to work, we have to change the entire fucking two-party
No.
system?
What I'm saying is,
I guess.
what I'm saying is we advocate for Democrats because Democrats are the liberals in the room. If there were liberals in the room, there would be Democrats.
Your problem is that you are looking at one election. Whick and I are looking at all of them. You're looking at this as a binary. For example, the main election, where if Graham Plattner doesn't win, Susan Collins wins, and bottom line, end of story, start of story, one liberal loses, Graham Plattner because he's a D, and one illiberal wins, Susan Collins because she's an R and going to support Trump. What Whick and I are saying is that we are convinced that the after effects, the ripple effects of this one election, and maybe not this election because it's a Senate, and Senate seats are particularly important and could potentially raise to the level of importance. I could totally buy into that. I think some elections are worth more than others, but certainly not all competitive elections are worth the ripple effects of the damage to the party brand, because there's more than just one election. There's all elections until we're dead, and then a whole lot more.
Okay, okay. Do we all agree that the Democratic brand is shit?
Yes, dog shit.
Okay.
That is
would we care?
As it is perceived, yes.
Okay. Would we care if it's a fresh, warm pile of dog shit or a week-old, white, crusty pile of dog shit? Would we really care about that much?
You understand that the Democratic
Sounds like a false
Party
equivalency to
brand
me.
No. Because what you're saying is you're all agreeing that the Democratic Party is shit, and what you're saying is that the Democratic Party is only going to get worse.
No, I think that it's shit because they've had bad policies.
Yep.
That's why.
What bad policies?
I mean, we've listed many of them throughout here. I think that they've overemphasized certain things. I think they've underemphasized certain things. I think they've underdelivered on certain things. We could go into that at a different time, but I'm not going to do that in passing for like 6
No, that's fine.
minutes.
Okay.
Just done it for 3 hours.
Okay, gang, we have run the gamut here. We have circled the wagons. We have circled the drain as well. Thank you all for coming today. Tomorrow, well, first, if you like the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And tomorrow, we are going to have Dev and Tali versus Bree Lives and Get Money Dre on whether or not anti-white racism is an issue in left-wing spaces. Tune in for that. It'll be at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm excited to host that. Any final words from anyone before we end this shit show?
Yo, I just wanted to say that Destiny mogs Hassan every time. He's so much smarter than Hassan. Fuck Hassan.
True. Thank you. That's a great point, caller.
Breach.
I'll talk to you guys later. Wait, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Wow.
Bishop, I want to talk to you.
Okay, DM me.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll
You're
talk to you guys
Whick?
later. I'm gonna leave. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Wow. Good job, guys.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.